I like my burgers, and
Yeah.
I like eating burgers.
Would you stab an animal yourself? Like you don't need to. You could eat a vegan.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you could eat a vegan burger. Somebody else will even cook it for you, and it tastes just the same. If I put a blindfold on you, you wouldn't know the difference between that and a regular
Well,
burger. Wait, hold on. But
before we get to that,
wait,
sorry.
no. Would you prefer to stab an animal, skin them, and all that, in order to get your beef burger, or would you just eat a vegan burger if you had to stab the animal every
If I
time?
had to stab the animal, or I
Yeah,
could just eat a vegan burger,
yeah.
stab an animal. Vegan burgers kind of blow,
Okay.
according,
So
personal preference.
luckily most people who eat animals do not agree with you, and they're against animal cruelty, and they can't imagine themselves stabbing a screaming, helpless little animal. So those are the people that are joining our side, and we're taking over, and you're gonna lose, and we're gonna force you to start eating plants.
Okay. Well, for one, here's another big point of mine. Um, if I, you see, there's a burger place near my house, right? And there's also a say a vegan place where I can get the vegan burgers. That's gonna be more farther away, right? Because in my current situation, there's a closer burger place. So why the hell would I give a shit to just go over to the vegan place when I can just walk a block and grab myself a vegan burger?
Yeah, sure. So if would you walk that extra little bit if it was dogs in the slaughterhouse being turned into burgers, or you know?
I don't give a shit. I just want to eat my burger, really.
Yeah, so that's another thing that helps our cause. When people say things like that, it helps meat eaters who are on the fence about the issue to realize they don't want to sound like you, and they want to stand up and rescue some helpless little animals. So just
You
keep
see, I ain't like other meat eaters, but see,
keep it
I don't
up.
give a shit about other meat
Yeah,
eaters.
that's cool. I'm not trying to win you over, dude.
I'm
Obviously, you're
focused
not
on
gonna.
my personal preference.
Yeah, obviously you're not gonna change, and so I'm not gonna try to educate and motivate you. Right? Maybe you'll change. I used to make fun of vegans, so maybe in 10 years you'll have a megaphone in your hand leading our march. But until then,
No,
you're not a very promising audience member. So I'll probably embarrass you and then move on to somebody who does care about truth and justice and animals.
okay, wait. Before we get to that, so you see, I still don't understand why. Like right now, I just want to go and just eat my burger, like just just any other day, just go and eat my burger from like Five Guys or like Five Nappers or whatever.
Uh huh.
Like I don't want to walk the extra mile and say I had to get it from the supermarket
Yeah,
and like
I
cook
gotta
it,
say though, like poor
whatever.
you, like boo hoo, like are you? Do you need a tissue? Like, are you gonna be okay? You sound kind of triggered that you gotta walk a little extra.
I don't give a shit.
No, I
Listen,
mean
if I'm not gonna walk,
no,
I'm
I
not
mean,
gonna.
would
I'm
you
not
like me?
even gonna
Well,
take
hey,
the
look, I'll tell you
breath.
what. I'll tell you what. I'll carry you. Would you like me to carry you?
That's not my point.
I'll
See, what
carry
I'm
you.
trying
No,
to tell
like
you
your legs
is that
must be
I'm not.
very weak, and so you need somebody to carry you. I'll carry you so that you don't have to stab any animals.
I'm not gonna take the extra mile. I'm not gonna. I don't even. I give no shits. Okay. I'm like.
Yeah, I understand. And that's why we're gonna take over without your help. We realize you're not gonna help, and so we're gonna win anyways. Don't be scared. Don't be a little crybaby. You don't need to be carried. You're a big, strong man, and you can do it. And what's going to happen is the animal products are going to be removed from the shelves, and so you won't have a choice. And you won't have to walk a longer uh, ways to get to a vegan restaurant because all the restaurants are going to be vegan. Because we're going to shut down all the slaughterhouses and make meat illegal. And so you won't have to worry. But until then, you're going to have to deal with annoying vegans like me.
Oftentimes people don't see the necessary role of animals in agriculture. So, not even necessarily breeding them, like having them for food, but whether it's keeping goats or horses or cows, they are necessary for field rotations. And if we were to simply swap completely over to agriculture for vegans, there'd be a serious issue with making sure that the uh, soil would be fertilized, right? Because the the goats are needed in order to follow the fields to then refertilize them, right? So
Well,
how
Yeah. So
Right.
have you heard of veganic farming, where they use non-animal fertilizer and no pesticide, and they just really try to do their best to eliminate or reduce as much as possible any kind of uh, animal deaths that would happen in the process. But there's also vertical farming, which is already happening, and that's what we need to be focusing on for future agriculture. So it's just plant agriculture, and vertical farming is aeroponic or hydroponic. Vertical farming is like an indoor plant farm, like a skyscraper, like a building going up instead of going sideways. And so the plants are stacked on top of each other going up, right? And so this saves a bunch of land use, and these buildings can be built anywhere on any type of soil in the desert, whatever. So we don't need any animals to rotate crops or fertilize the ground or anything. And it uses 95% less water than traditional plant agriculture. And yeah, it's totally vegan. There's no need for animals to be involved at all.
Again, from a farming background, do you have an objection to me and my family having goats in order to follow our fields and fertilize?
You
Like,
kill them?
well, so we do some dairy, like some goat milk, but we don't necessarily kill them for meat.
Necessarily?
So if they become an issue of health, yeah. So whether it be a disease that could spread to the rest of them or a broken leg, it is more effective, more effective in my opinion, humane, to put a goat out of its misery than ask it to live the rest of its life without a leg.
Wait, for a
You know,
broken leg can be mended.
not always. So there are some times where it can be mended, but there are other times where the leg is backwards because someone hit it with a car, and there's
Okay.
not much that you can do about it.
Okay, so
Other than
amputate the leg, and hook him up with a wheelchair.
so you consider that you then have to consider the economics of that for the
Yeah,
farm.
yeah. That's why we shouldn't
Right,
have.
and
Yeah, that's why we should not be trying to profit off of animals, because as soon as you need to pay a vet bill, you'd rather just cut their head off.
not exactly beheading them. Um, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. Um,
Stabbing them, shooting them. What are you doing to these poor little animals? No offense, mate, but like, pay the vet bill. You can't claim to be caring about these animals if that's what you're doing to them. And that's why we
well,
should,
yeah,
and that's why we shouldn't be raising animals when we don't need to.
I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, they're a farm implement. I mean, that's kind of just what they are.
Well, no, they're not a tool. They're not a slave. They're not an inanimate object. They're a conscious.
So
Hey, hold on. They're a conscious, sentient individual who cares how they're treated. They feel pain and pleasure. They want to live. They want to hang out with their friends and families. They don't want their babies taken away. They don't want our hands
yeah,
all. They don't want our hands all over them, and they certainly don't want a knife in the neck.
I I mean, I understand that argument. I just have a hard time understanding the logistics of going like I don't
Sure.
again I think it's idealistic to think that we can just completely eliminate animals from agriculture.
Well, would it be better if we could do it? Would that be better, so that there's less animal suffering and death?
I think that perhaps the beef industry could be shrunk, and like that again. There's an environmental question there, right? But then the other question is, what's the environmental and ecological impact of this increased uh, like meat and uh, dairy alternatives? Because
Yeah, it's way better for the
ma-
environment. Way better for the environment.
I
I can explain
I
why with.
I kind I I disagree because you have to consider
Sorry,
you have to
sorry,
consider that uh, soy milk, sorry, like tofu made from soy and various forms of milk alternatives are made in factories, and then you have to consider where those factories are getting their energy. And at this current point, that's mostly from coal and natural gas, which are not necessarily sustainable.
Okay.
And
Okay. So let me respond to that point real quick. So I'm gonna make some statistical claims and back it up with some science. If you got some science, you can post it in stage one text. But we do encourage sources backing up empirical claims about climate change and things like that. So first, I'm gonna post an article here from Our World in Data about how I believe it's 77% of the soy production in the world is used to feed livestock. All right, so we have to feed these animals for months and years to get them up to slaughter weight, and in doing so, we waste a bunch of plants in the process. So I'm posting in stage one text. Everybody can check this out. Here we go. So 70 billion land animals are raised and fed and killed every year across the world. That's 10 times the human population. The USDA reported that it takes 16 pounds of plants to make 1 pound of beef because the farmer has to feed the cow every day for 18 months to get them up to slaughter weight. So 16-to-1 ratio, plants to beef. The University of Oxford reported that raising animals takes up 75% of our farmland because we have to grow a bunch of crops to feed all these animals. 70% of the deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is used for raising cattle to make beef. National Geographic reported that a vegan diet saves 600 gallons of water per person per day because we have to water the crops that are fed to the animals and give these 70 billion animals water to drink. And lastly, the United Nations reported that the greenhouse gas emissions coming from raising cattle is more than the entire transportation sector, which includes all cars, trucks, trains, planes, and ships.
okay. I mean, I can't really argue with that, I suppose. But yeah.
Okay, cool. So vertical farming, like veganic farming, would be even better than plant farming. But plant farming alone, just traditional plant agriculture, is far superior environmentally than animal agriculture because animal agriculture is so resource intensive. So either way, like it's better to go vegan. You know, like veganism is
So
about animal rights, but we're talking about a plant-based diet for the environment. That's just one of the bonuses of going vegan for the animals is that you happen to be helping the environment a whole bunch, and it's better for your body as well, your health.
I kind of so one of my issues with what you're saying is you're focusing on for the most part you're focusing on the beef industry, right?
No,
And I would agree with most of your criticisms of the beef industry.
that's not just beef
Uh,
though. Like most of the animals that are raised and killed are chickens and fish, like fish farms, unless we're talking
yeah.
about wild caught. But
Mhm.
yeah, chickens are as far as land animals that are raised and killed. It's mostly chickens, and they're
So
tortured.
so I get that. Um, but if you're only focusing on the beef industry, there's a lot more uh, to talk about, like animals in um, in agriculture. You know, again, I have goats on my farm. Sheep are a common one. You know, here's my question: do you make sure that all of your clothing is wool free?
Wool free? Yeah, I don't wear wool.
Yeah. Well, actually, I guess an important question is: do you live anywhere cold enough to need wool?
Well, no, we have plenty of other ways to keep ourselves warm, right?
Yeah, but I would consider wool a lot. Uh, it's generally cheaper and
Yeah,
comfortable.
well, if it comes at the expense of animal suffering and death, then I'd rather pay a little bit extra.
If you don't shear sheep, they are actually suffering.
Okay,
That's the thing here.
have you ever seen, like, I understand that you got a farm and stuff, but have you ever seen
Hmm.
wool production, like, on a mass scale and, have you ever seen videos of this?
Yes,
Okay, well,
I
I'm gonna make sure, I'm
I
gonna,
know wool.
yeah,
I know wool farmers.
okay, well, all right, so are you defending it?
My neighbor raises sheep.
Okay, so I'm gonna post a video here so that everybody can check this out. And yeah, there's gonna be nicer and meaner ways to shear a sheep, and it's theoretically possible that some people are shearing sheep and never killing those sheep and just like shearing them to do them a favor because like these animals have been genetically bred and selectively, just genetically modified and selectively bred over generations to produce wool in excess so that humans can shear them and sell them and make profit and all this. So that's why they grow so much wool that we have to shear them. They're
Well,
reliant on us. But
I think it's unfair to say that it was initially done for profit
well,
because
okay,
I think it's a lot easier to say that it was initially done out of necessity
okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you
warm
that.
clothing before we had synthetic materials.
Yeah, I'll give you that. But it quickly became an industry, and that's why they started having sheep farmers and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and once you start commodifying animals, you end up with extreme animal cruelty. And so I'm posting here in stage one text to tag you in it a video inside the U.S. wool industry. This stuff is exhausting for me to have to like keep watching so many undercover investigations of extreme animal cruelty on animal farms and people trying to defend it, and I just don't understand why. And like, even if you're treating the animal super well and you're not like punching them like you'll see in this video, because see the reason that a farmer is going to be punching a sheep is that the sheep doesn't necessarily want to be held down and sheared with some scary electric buzzsaw, right? So they might freak out a little bit. And so but the farmer's got like a production to keep up, right? He's got a product to sell, and he's got workers. And or he is the worker, and his boss is breathing down his neck to do it faster and faster. And the sheep ain't complying, and so the guy's holding down the sheep, and it's struggling. So he starts punching them, right? And then they get nicked from the razors, and they're bleeding all over the place. And eventually, they're slaughtered for meat, anyways. So when they're probably still really young.
I mean, I kind of find it just it's hard to classify all agriculture as the same. Like you get what I mean?
Yeah, there's going to be more harmful ways of doing things, but I think that when we view animals as a resource, an unnecessary resource, and a product, like an egg laying machine or a milk machine, a flesh machine, a wool machine, these are not machines. Like, we wouldn't want somebody to be commodifying us and farming us, right? And I like to use the alien analogy here that, like, look, the difference between like a sheep and a human is that we're way smarter than them, right? But the similarities is that we both feel pain and pleasure, and we want to live and just hang out with our friends, right? So now let's imagine that some aliens came to Earth. I don't know if aliens exist, but hypothetically, aliens come to Earth and they're let's say that humans are like 50 times smarter than a sheep. Well, I don't know, some random number, okay? 50 times smarter than a sheep. Well, let's say that these aliens who show up are 50 times smarter than humans, right? So they're smarter than us, they're stronger than us, and they start to treat us the way we've been treating animals, right? So they enslave us, torture us, take our babies away, cut our tails off, dehorn us, cut our beaks off, cut our teeth out without anesthesia, all this weird shit, torture devices, artificially inseminate us, right? Hold us down and impregnate us and then take away our babies. And all the while, we're screaming, please, please, just like the animals are screaming for mercy, right? We're like, hey, we don't deserve this. We didn't do anything wrong. We weren't trying to hurt you, Mr. Alien, and the farming continues, and they just don't care, right? But the funny thing is that some of the aliens are vegan aliens, right? And they're telling the other aliens who are eating the humans, they're like, hey, my fellow aliens, why don't we be nice to the humans? Like, it doesn't matter that they're not part of our group. Like, nobody gets to choose what body they're born into, so they look different. They're not as smart as us. No big deal. They still feel pain. They got friends and families. They want to live. Let's just be nice to the humans. We can eat these plants instead. But the aliens who are eating the humans are laughing at the vegan aliens, saying, what do you care about these stupid humans for? They're not smart like us. Like, we can get a product out of them.
If there truly was a being 50 times smarter than us, and that's just the way things are. Then, like in my opinion, that's just life at that point.
So you would just bow
Like-
down to your new slave masters?
I mean, if they're really 50 times smarter, 50 times stronger, and that technologically advanced, there's not much that
No,
humans would be able to do.
Well, no. Like the point is like the point
Nature-
is no. Listen. Hold on. We're not talking about like what would happen or how you would revolt or anything or whether or not you'd be able to or anything. We're talking about, is it moral for the aliens to treat us like that, to discriminate against humans simply because we're humans instead of aliens, right? That's speciesism. Like racism and sexism, speciesism, discrimination based on what species somebody's born into. Just like how we discriminate against animals for not being in the same species as us, right? Or we say, be nice to dogs and cats. We like those species, but slit the throats of cows and pigs and chickens. We don't like those species, right? For whatever reason, even though they all feel pain, they want to live, and they didn't do us any harm. All right, so the question again is, would you think that it's ethical, morally justified for this dominant alien species to abuse the power they hold over humans and needlessly exploit our vulnerability and slit our throats open, even though they could just eat plants?
I think you're getting a bit vitriolic. Okay, first of all, and I think that yes, in the end, it is moral for two reasons. A, in nature, survival of the fittest. That's just the way things are.
Can I address
that?
that?
The law of nature.
Can I respond to that real
Okay.
quick? So that's a nature fallacy, an appeal to nature or naturalistic fallacy, where we say if something happens in nature, therefore it's morally justified for me to do the same thing. But for example, a lion would kill a human child if given the opportunity. Are we therefore justified in killing children simply because a lion would? Are we held to a higher moral standard because we are moral agents who can think about this stuff rationally?
So then you would agree that there's a difference in agency between a human and an animal, correct?
Yeah, I already said we're way smarter than they are.
Okay, so humans are able to act morally.
Yeah,
But,
generally speaking, yeah.
But an animal is not.
Not to the degree that.
So a
Hold on.
lion
Not to the degree that we can. But yes, I've seen animals rescue other animals and humans.
But a lion eats an animal because it does not have the moral agency to go vegan.
And they're carnivores. They have to eat animals in order to survive, and they don't know any better.
Okay.
But we are civilized human beings who can make compassionate choices.
Okay. I also justify it as I'm a Christian, right? So in Genesis, God sends humans.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm totally down to talk about religion. I feel
I'm just justifying my choice.
Yeah. I feel like we moved on too soon, though. I'm not sure if there was something we needed to wrap up with that last bit. Did everything I say make sense about the naturalistic fallacy?
Yes, that makes sense to me. That doesn't necessarily change my opinion.
Okay.
If you understand.
But you're not going to use that as a reason anymore.
Yes. In the wild, yes, a human baby might be eaten by a wolf, and no, that does not justify us killing human babies.
Okay, cool.
Right? However, I naturally weigh a human baby's life over a lion.
Yeah, that's fine.
So in nature, were a lion to try to eat my baby, I would kill the lion.
Sure.
In defense of my child.
Yeah, so would I.
Okay, so in that instance, killing the animal is justified.
Yeah, you have the right to defend yourself or others from attack.
Okay.
Whether it's a human or an animal. Ideally, we would use non-violence or non-lethal violence, like, a taser or some bear spray or something, scare them off. But if all you got is a gun and they won't stop attacking, then, do what you got to do.
Okay. So, in Genesis, right?
Yeah.
God sends humans to be the wardens of this earth, right? And I personally interpret this. I cannot personally speak for all Christians or the Catholic Church, because I'm not a Catholic, so I can't speak for what the Pope has to say on the issue.
Okay.
Right? But I personally believe interpret the wardens of the earth as God sending us to cherish His creations and to use them for. So, as a warden, you both have to protect it. Even today, if humans were to stop hunting, there would be an overpopulation issue
Nope.
with deer. Yes, this is
Okay. Hold on. Do we want to talk about religion or overpopulation?
So as a warden of the earth, we are meant to both use and protect nature. So I agree that punching sheep and abusing them is a bad idea, right?
Cool.
I don't like that.
Good.
But I also think that sheep have a use to humanity.
Okay.
No.
So you said a couple words like a minute ago: cherish and protect. I just don't think that we're cherishing or protecting animals by cutting their lives short. Okay, so that's that. Now, as far as religion specifically, so in Genesis 1:28 and 29, for the record, I'm an agnostic atheist, but I was raised Christian, so I know a lot about all this. But Genesis 1:28 and 29, in the Garden of Eden, right? Adam and Eve and God, and before sin entered the world, before the fall of man, the Garden of Eden was vegan. There was no violence, there was no death. Even the animals weren't killing and eating each other, right? So, like lions were eating grass or whatever, according to this book, right? So, Genesis 1:28 and 29, God says to Adam and Eve, I have given you every seed bearing fruit and every green plant, that they shall be your food, and that every animal shall be eating these plants as well. And I give the animals to be your helpers. Okay, so animals were not to be our food. There was no bloodshed initially. Hold on.
So go ahead.
I just want to make a quick point here. So that was God's ideal creation. There was no violence. There was no bloodshed. And then in Isaiah it says that in the end times the wolf will lay down with the lamb, and they will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord. And in heaven there's probably no slaughterhouses, no bloodshed, no screaming animals, no bodies decapitated, right, heads on the floor, stuff like that. So if God's ideal in the Garden of Eden and in the end times and in heaven is peace and nonviolence and just respect and compassion for all from all, then shouldn't we strive to fulfill God's ideal here on earth rather than waiting for it in heaven?
Yes.
And I understand that there's many parts in the Bible that say you can eat animals, that say you can kill animals for sacrifices and stuff, but if God is giving you the choice and had made it clear that His preference in Isaiah and in the Garden of Eden and in heaven is just be nice, then shouldn't we do that?
Yes.
If God wanted you to eat meat, why did He create animals to feel pain and desire to stay alive? Why didn't He make them like plants, where they don't have a brain or a nervous system and they don't care how they're treated? And
okay, that is that's a very good question, and I personally can't answer off the top of my head. I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I'm not a theologian.
Okay, that's fine. I would just go think about it some more, but like hesitate before using your religion as a justification for animal cruelty.
Well, you were asking as to why I personally justified eating. Is that not what you had asked?
Sure, that's
that
fine.
How I...
Yeah, that's where the conversation was going, and that's fine. And I appreciate you're being very polite. I appreciate you explaining the reasons that you have. So that's fine. I was just saying, in the future, if it turns out that the Bible is not a good reason for you to kill, then don't use it as a reason to kill.
Okay, sure.
Cool. Okay. Anything else? Like, do you think we probably do have other callers to get to soon?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take my leave.
Okay, that's cool.
Thank you for entertaining my questions.
Yeah, and come talk to us again. We do these servers, or I'm sorry, these stages every day. So yeah, join us again. It was nice talking to you, and we'll look forward to your input in the future.
Okay. I just wanted to say I ate a burger for lunch today. What's the best way to kill my sins?
I don't believe in sin. Like, I'm an atheist, so I don't think sin is real. But I think that unethical behavior is. So make amends. That's the thing. Admit that what you've done was wrong. That the animal didn't deserve that. They was just trying to enjoy their life, and we
Yeah,
don't.
but here's where it gets even worse.
Oh
I
boy,
ate animal fries with it
animal
and a
fries.
milkshake.
Why don't you eat animal cookies? Those are vegan, I think. You know, they look
Animal.
like animals.
Oh, those are delicious. I
Yeah,
love those.
yeah. But we got vegan burgers, so don't freak out. Don't be scared. We're gonna hook you up with some vegan burgers, cause soon we're gonna
The
make meat.
vegan burgers, the Impossible burgers, give me a headache. I'm not even kidding.
Okay, well try the Beyond Burgers then.
The Beyond Burgers, I tried those too.
Mhm. Okay, cool. All right. Well, get used to them, cause soon that's all that's gonna be available, cause we're shutting down all the slaughterhouses and making meat illegal.
But how actually? I have a serious question.
Okay.
How if worldwide veganism were to become a thing,
Mhm.
like how fast do you think that would happen?
It's hard to say, but I think in the next 10, 20, 30 years, we're going to see cities going vegan and then entire states, and then it becoming like a federal law in certain countries. And so whole countries going vegan. And then that spreads to other countries. And then hopefully, as soon as possible, we'll have international animal rights laws, just like we have international human rights laws.
But I feel like that's like a little unrealistic because I mean, not everyone like. There's no doubt that currently, at least, veganism is a little more expensive. So,
Mm.
and it's people have been just going, like it's so easy and convenient. Go to McDonald's, grab a burger, and that's lunch. So I feel like it
Yeah.
would be a lot harder. They
Okay.
can't they can't just
Well, for
you
one,
know.
like I said,
Humans have been eating meat for years, so.
yeah, but like I said, like
And
there's vegan burgers at certain McDonald's and certain Burger Kings, and Burger King has pledged to have half of their menu fully vegan by 2030. So and there's just more of this. So it becomes easier for people to go vegan. So and cheaper, more affordable, more popular, more accessible, things like this. And rice is really cheap. All right, rice and beans and pasta, potatoes and veggies, like that stuff is super cheap. So and there's already dollar menu like rice and bean burrito at Taco Bell. So being vegan is
but like,
not more expensive unless you're always buying those vegan burgers and stuff like that. But as it
mm,
becomes more
but like,
popular, it'll become more affordable.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. But like, let's say I've been eating, Burger King because it's so convenient for a long time, and then I see, okay, I've got like vegan options. Would I really choose the vegan option over the one I'm familiar with? I
Well,
mean,
I
I
don't
don't
know
like the
I don't know what you're gonna choose. Like that's up to you. But there's a lot of people who do care about truth and justice and animals and the environment and their health, and so they don't want to poison the world with a bunch of violence and destructive behavior toward the innocent beings, right? So they are making the change. And if you don't, like, that's the thing. Like, you'll have plenty of time to like come to your own conclusions and stuff. Right now, we're just trying to educate and motivate people to do the right thing because the animals really need your help. And again, they didn't do nothing to deserve getting stabbed in the throat. But if you don't join us, eventually we are taking over. So like, more people are going vegan, and as soon as we get enough people, we're gonna like make new laws to shut down the slaughterhouses and make meat, dairy, and eggs illegal. And
stuff.
on that day, you're gonna be forced to eat a plant-based diet. You won't be vegan because you won't care, like you won't agree with the philosophy of veganism of animal rights, but we're gonna force you to eat a plant-based diet against your will.
Uh, I mean, there's no doubt about it. The meat industry is definitely, shrinking. But I have one more question.
Okay.
What do you think about what do you think about aggressive vegans like that vegan teacher
Or
who
like,
try and use what a lot of people get annoyed at to convert other people?
well, I thought you were gonna mention me as an example, but I don't know enough about that vegan teacher to give a full critique. But like, do you want to say an exact example of something that she said or did that you thought was
Yeah,
objectionable, and I can critique that?
yeah. I mean, she just, like she'll just if a YouTuber like calls her out, and she just goes, she's just always attacking other people
How so?
and saying like how they're wrong. She'll write songs about them, just insulting them.
Okay.
And, like she said some really bad things.
Okay, so yeah,
Like
like I've seen a couple things she said that like I thought were definitely problematic, and we need to be careful and hold ourselves and each other to a very high standard when we're activists, right? But also remember that activism is hard, and we all make mistakes, and sometimes we take things too far, and we need to like change our ways and make apologies and stuff like that. But at the same time, we're up against a bunch of people cutting heads off of little baby animals, so we're kind of panicking here. Please have some mercy for us. It's hard to be an activist for any social justice movement, and but yeah, so like in any case, she's probably done a lot of good stuff too, and a lot of people come to this server to talk about her, and in the process, they learn a lot about animal rights and the environment and stuff. So being controversial can be a good thing. We just don't want to take it too far. We don't want to be, violent or racist or homophobic or anything like this. But it's totally a good thing to be controversial and dramatic because it gets people talking about the issue, makes them want to learn more, even if they're talking smack about us. So like, did you see what this crazy vegan did? Well, like that can help us because the person they're talking to might be like, I don't know, like I saw a slaughterhouse video on YouTube the other day. It was pretty messed up what we're doing to animals. Like, what is the difference between a dog and a pig? Like, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And these vegans seem to be making a lot of sense, even though they act crazy sometimes. So it can spark a dialogue and get media coverage and stuff like that and reach millions of people. So there's a lot of different forms of activism. They all have their place, I think. But the point is even if you don't like her style, that doesn't say anything about whether or not you should stab animals.
I mean, she gets made fun of a lot. Like she's not really doing a lot of good things. Like
No,
actual vegans have said themselves
sure,
that
sure.
she makes them look bad. Like that they make veganism look like a joke because of her methods of trying to get people to convert
Well,
to veganism
well,
are so like
all you've
weird.
mentioned though, like so far, all you've told me about her is that she made some songs making fun of people who eat animals, and she made response videos critiquing YouTubers who eat animals. I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, that's part of the world. Like, people, make fun of each other. Like, uh, you know, take jabs at each other YouTubers and stuff, famous people, and make response videos calling them in like, hey, why are you being mean to animals? Like, you're nice to your dog or cat. Like, why are you hurting these cows and pigs and chickens and fish and stuff? Like, what's the difference between these animals? And so I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah,
I do worse than that. Like, look at my profile picture. I'm covered in fake blood, and I got a megaphone in my hand. I go inside of restaurants and grocery stores and stand up on tables and scream about animal rights, like in the middle of people's lunch. I've been arrested for.
that's
I've been
breaking laws to
Yeah, it's
make
breaking the law. I've been
veganism look
arrested.
bad.
Yeah, I've been arrested for animals, and I got no regrets. But it's just trespassing. I'm not recommending that anybody else do it here on stage or anything. I'm just saying that there are a lot of activists who do this for a multitude of different social justice causes, whether we're talking about, earlier stages of like the women's rights movement, the women's rights to vote movement, the gay rights movement, the civil rights movement, anti-war, all kinds of movements have used, controversial tactics to get people to talk about the issue. Because right now, a lot of people in our society don't have to address slaughterhouses because it's not talked about on the TV. Right? Nobody wants to talk about slaughterhouses. So the only time you ever have to is when a vegan makes you talk about it. Right?
Yeah, I just don't think like you were saying within like 10, 20, 30 years we'll see a lot of change and a lot more vegan in the world. I just don't think there's a lot of other higher priority things right now.
Well, not for the
Like,
animals, not for the victims. And if
well,
you
well
were, hold on, if you were the victim, you would realize immediately what an atrocity this is and how urgent the situation is. Have you ever seen videos of a slaughterhouse or a factory farm? You know, these animals are little babies that are like having their testicles ripped out of their bodies with no painkillers. They're having their little tails clipped off with no painkillers. Can you imagine having your finger cut off with no painkillers?
I'm not trying to defend the slaughterhouses. I'm just trying to say that I think that it's gonna probably take a lot longer than like that's all. And also, um, you know, she that vegan teacher, she's like homophobic and racist.
Okay, well, like I
So
said, we should not be homophobic or racist. Most of the vegans I know are left leaning, progressive people who care about justice for all. So
mhm.
I stand up for the poor. I stand up for Black Lives Matter and trans rights. I'm bisexual myself, so part of the LGBTQ plus community, and I stand up for immigration. Like I think people should be able to go wherever they want. So yeah, so like I'm against classism and capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, I just I don't know. I guess that's all the questions I really had. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for talking, and join us again soon. All right.
I have been watching for about the past week, like all this stuff on going vegan and about the cruelty, and like I've really been inspired to go vegan. And I was just wondering if you had any tips on like staying away from like meat and all that stuff because like it's kind of like a habit at this point, so I feel
Yeah.
like it's gonna be really hard to kind of like wean off of that stuff.
Yeah, I understand how you feel. So first, we have a Veg Curious role for this server. So I don't know if any moderators are listening, but we can give this person the.
Um, yeah, I have that role.
Okay, cool. Right on. So, yeah, so basically, in general, like, I remember when I stopped eating animals like 12 years ago, the first few weeks were a little rough, nothing I couldn't handle, but I would pull up to a drive through McDonald's, and like see this picture of this big juicy burger, and like my stomach would start like twisting up in knots. I'd start like salivating, and I'm like craving this big juicy burger that I've been eating my whole life. I'm like addicted to this thing like a drug, and I'm just like, but I'm powering through. So I'm like, no, think about the animals, and just go, just give me some French fries, and they gave me the fries. I ate the fries, and as soon as I had something in my stomach, I was fine. Like my hunger had subsided.
Yeah.
And I wasn't craving no animal flesh anymore, but and that went away after just a few weeks, and it wasn't too bad. So I'm kind of exaggerating it, but it was a little something, and that's just because we get hooked on certain flavors and conveniences and textures and stuff like this, and we get pressured
Right.
by society because this violence against animals is so normalized. It's just we don't even think about violence when we're eating a burger, because we don't think about blood on the floor or throats slashed open or animals screaming for their lives, because we don't see that stuff. We just see a nice juicy burger, right? So
Yeah.
we just got to make that connection more often, which I think is like to watch slaughterhouse videos a little bit more and educate yourself really on what the animals are going through in every stage of production, all the different types of animals and all these animal products that we're making and how they got there, so that you really know what they're going through, so you can make an educated decision, an informed decision, and it's more at the forefront of your mind, and you can't live in denial as easily, right? So there's this thing in psychology called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is where like you've got a belief, but you have another belief or an action that's contradicting that other belief you have, and so you're like we're being hypocrites sometimes in our lives, right, with certain things, and it creates this cognitive dissonance in us, which makes us feel really uncomfortable because we realize we're being hypocrites, we're not being consistent, and so we have to like uh, we either run from it and live in denial, right? Or we step up to the plate and we say, okay, I'm being a hypocrite. This is making me uncomfortable. I can either like pretend like this isn't an issue, or I can stand up and act like a responsible person and take accountability for my actions and change, right? And this can take a form in a lot of different aspects of our lives, but sometimes we just gotta like do the uncomfortable thing and make a change and not be so afraid, not be dictated by fear and stuff. So think about the victims instead of yourself, and realize that you are strong and you can do it. You are smart, and the animals need your help.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say to everyone who is like kind of like against vegan here or like on the line, you kind of have to like think about like yourself, like getting slaughtered slowly, like the pain, like they don't have any painkillers, like they're not ready to die yet. A lot of them are young. And honestly, I think the change of going vegan is like it's worth saving like animals,
Absolutely.
from not being slaughtered. So, and you guys have really, I've been coming to these for about just yesterday was my first one, and you guys have like really inspired, like show me the light. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for the feedback. We really appreciate hearing that. And it sounds like you're an anti-speciesist. Like being an anti-racist, you're against racism. Being an anti-speciesist just means you're against speciesism. It just means that you think that just because somebody was born into a different body, like a goat or a pig or a bird or a cow or whatever, just because somebody's different doesn't give you the right to stab them just because you're human, right? So you're against speciesism.
Right.
Okay, cool. Well, that's the.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna let somebody else up, but thank you so much. You guys have a great night.
All right, cheers.
How good is a veggie burger?
It's
Because
good.
I'm not good at the moment, but I just want to know how good it is.
It's good. It depends on which one you get, but like I don't think I've ever had a veggie burger that. No, I have. I have had a veggie burger that I did not like, but like 95% of the veggie burgers I've had were good, and some of them were like super good. So you can make a bean burger at home, or you can buy a bean burger like frozen at the store or whatever, and those are super good. But you can also get a burger that's more like an actual burger that looks and feels and tastes and smells just like a regular beef burger, but it's made out of plants, but you can't tell. So we've put blindfolds on people, and they don't know which one is the beef burger and which one is the vegan burger. So that would be like Impossible Burger or Beyond Burger. Yeah, it's really good. And like they got an Impossible Whopper over at Burger King.
Wait, we got Whoppers now, and wait,
Yeah.
fast food chains to go vegan?
Yeah, there's a vegan burger at Burger King called the Impossible Whopper. Just make sure to get it with no cheese or mayo, because cheese and mayonnaise have milk in it, and milk kills baby animals and their mothers.
Okay. I'm just saying, I own a chicken farm. My uncle owns a chicken farm, and in our culture, in our ways, we use these kind of food as kind of like normal food. What is your thoughts about just using a meat cleaver, cutting the head instant? Is that humane death for you, or is that sound kind of painful and hard to hear?
Being clubbed with a meat cleaver sounds pretty violent. Doesn't sound humane. Like what sounds humane is like if I like pat you on the back and say you're a good person. That sounds humane. If I pet a dog instead of like hitting them with a meat cleaver. So yeah, the thing is, there's no like humane way to kill somebody that doesn't want to die. So we're not talking about like a mercy killing. Like when my dog was 14 years old, and his quality of life had deteriorated to the point where he wasn't enjoying living anymore. He was vomiting all the time. He couldn't control his bowels. He couldn't walk. He wasn't having fun anymore. And so I put him to sleep. And that was nice because I would want somebody to do that for me if I was suffering. But, he died. He just went to sleep, right? Peaceful and stuff. But that's not what's happening in slaughterhouses. So these animals are young. They're killed when they're children because that's when it's profitable, right? Because the farmer doesn't want to keep feeding the animals for years to let them have a nice, happy, long life. So he kills them as soon as they reach slaughter weight, which is when they're children. So like pigs, the natural lifespan of a pig, just like a dog, is about 12 years old. But pigs are killed when they're only 6 months old because that's when they get big enough to sell for meat, right? So it's like killing a puppy. Like, would you want to be hit with a meat cleaver? Like, even if it killed you quickly and painlessly, that's still mean to take your life, right?
Yes, I suppose so.
It would be worse if I tortured you slowly and then killed you, but like I still don't need to kill you quickly and painlessly, like shoot you in the head while you're sleeping. That's still mean, right? It's murder. Because like you have your whole life ahead of you, right? These animals have their whole lives ahead of them. They have a future waiting to be enjoyed, continued existence that matters to them. They have friends and family relationships that we would be destroying if we end their lives. And I just don't want to do that if I don't need to. Because I want them to have fun.
Now,
I like it when everybody's
now
happy,
here's another
happy
question.
and having fun.
Now, Um, what are your thoughts? Because animals are like some animals are carnivorous. The things who eat meat. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's sad that lions need to kill gazelles in order to survive, but that's just part of the way the world is, unfortunately. I wish we lived in a world where nobody killed anybody and there was no suffering or death and everybody was just happy and having fun. But, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. But I want to try to play my part. I want to do my part to, like, contribute to everyone's happiness and safety rather than just being like, well, the world is full of suffering, so I'm going to increase that suffering. I'm gonna torture and kill others. So like I just think that lions don't know any better, and they're killing in order to survive because they're carnivores. They have to eat animals. But we're human. We, on the other hand, are civilized human beings, and we can make compassionate choices. So therefore, we're held to a higher moral standard than the lion is. A lion would kill a human child if given the opportunity. Are we therefore justified in killing children simply because a lion would? No, we got to be nice to kids even if lions wouldn't. But that doesn't mean we should go out, like hating lions because the lion doesn't know any better. We're not trying to blame the lion. It's just unfortunate for the gazelle. And if there was a way to save the gazelle and the lion, I would like to figure that out, but it's like we don't want to make the lion starve either by preventing them from eating the gazelles. So it's a tricky thing, but I don't need to eat gazelles. I don't need to kill them, and neither do you. And so you and I should stop doing that. We have a lot of instincts that we realize are bad and we stop ourselves. We do this probably every day. Hopefully every day we're like, hey, don't do that thing you want to do. It's a bad idea. That's self-regulation, but also look at, if we look at the past, we see other social justice movements that have made significant progress in their fight for justice in society. So for thousands of years, women were not allowed to vote. They were, it was normal in society for them to get, pushed around by their husband or their boss. They would get beaten and they couldn't do anything about it, and they didn't have the right to vote. But then 100 years ago, a small group of dedicated activists, these women got together and they stood up for themselves, and they made a lot of people upset with their activism, but it got a commotion going. It got a bunch of discussion, and people started talking about it, and that emboldened people, empowered people, made them feel strong about speaking up themselves, because now they're seeing these activists do it first, right? Because a lot of people, we want to speak up, we realize something's wrong, but we're shy. It's hard to go against the majority of people, but then we see other people do it and it inspires us, like a call to action. And then we make a call to action ourselves. We become activists and we start doing these things and educating and motivating people, and then they change, and then it just spirals and more people join. Same thing with the civil rights movement. The black people weren't allowed to sit in certain areas in restaurants or buses and things like this. There was a whites only section, and so it was segregated by race. And these activists said, no, we're not going to take this. This is not right. And they fought, and it took years and years and years, but they won. And there's still progress to be made for anti-sexism and anti-racism. These problems still exist in our society, but we're way better off now than we were, right? And it's because of those brave activists, and so we can learn a lot from them, from their tactics, and employ those in other movements for other victims as well. And we can make progress, like the gay marriage movement, the gay rights movement in in America here, we passed federal law in 2015 saying that it's a constitutional right for same-sex couples to get married, and um, and this was like unheard of. There was a lot of discrimination. Again, for thousands of years, homosexuals have been discriminated against and brutalized and murdered for being gay. And in most cultures, it's been like that across the world. But these activists got together, and in the 80s, in the 1980s, just like 40 years ago, there was an activist, a gay rights activist, who was saying, in 20 or 30 years, we're going to have same-sex marriage will be legal. And his fellow gay activists were like, we love you, but you're crazy. Like, we want that to happen, but there's no way. Like, we're up against a mountain of society of bigots that hate gay people. There's no way we're going to be able to get married in 20 or 30 years. And yet, it happened, right? Because society changes, it evolves, it becomes smarter, and I think we're heading in the right direction in a lot of different ways. But in a lot of ways, we're still messing up, and so we all need to play our part in society to improve it in all the ways where it's not as good as it could be. And so yeah, and in 1996, 27% of Americans were in support of gay marriage. So 1996, only 27% of Americans supported gay marriage. But now that number has tripled to 75%. 75% of Americans now support gay marriage. And that even includes most Republicans. 55% of Republicans support gay marriage. And that's just crazy to think that ever would have happened, So,
Like, you see a spider, and you go, like, if you crush it, you don't feel, like, just as bad.
no, be nice to spiders, man. What if you were born
Yeah.
What if you were born a
Be
spider?
How do you feel about owning, like, pets as well?
Nope. Nope.
You don't like owning pets?
You don't own them. You are their caretaker. You are their guardian. You are their friend.
Like,
Their human companion. You are not their owner. They're not a piece of property. They're not inanimate objects.
so being a caretaker of, like, an animal is like, how do you feel about that?
That's fine.
Okay?
Yeah, that's cool. So long as they're rescued, like adopted, you don't want to buy from a breeder because that encourages more animals to be bred for profit. And there's like 1 million like dogs and cats in the shelters in America who need homes, and they're going to be killed if they don't get homes. 1 million of them are killed every year. So
I agree with that. That's factual. So I own a couple tarantulas.
you take
And
care of. You take care
I
of.
I also have a colony of cockroaches.
Okay.
Do get roaches. And I guess this is like the bug version of like having a cow farm or something. So how do you feel like I raise them up and then I give them to the bugs, to the spiders? And
Okay.
It's like food. So
Yeah, I don't.
know your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think that personally, I don't think that we should. Like, it's nice of you to want to take care of the spider, but then we're killing all these other animals to take care of that spider. So ideally, like, we don't want to. I would say, like, I don't want to have any companion animals who require the deaths of other animals. So I only want like herbivores, or omnivores that can be fed a herbivorous diet, so that we don't have to kill other animals to keep this one animal alive. So the idea is to like I know that I know that you're in a situation now, but in the future, what I'm saying is like we should not be breeding snakes and tarantula spiders into existence and buying them from pet stores and then having to feed them these often live animals. Like they get eaten alive, So like I don't think we should be increasing the suffering in the world. I know it happens in nature, but so I don't know if it's if you can release that spider. A lot of times these are domesticated snakes and spiders that people have, and they can't be released.
But like domesticated snakes and stuff, like they cannot be released. But spiders, like, they don't have like their brain isn't they're not very smart. So if you release them into the wild where they're like natural habitat, they would do like just the same as they were born in.
Okay,
So
if
it's
that's the
like
case, I'm not sure, but
they're
if
pure instinctual animals.
Mhm.
Like,
and of course
so
they're still gonna kill out there also. So either way, they're little killing
yeah,
machines.
but
It
like
sucks. But if there was some other way to feed them, like that would be cool. Like there's this thing, lab grown meat, where it's actual animal flesh, but it's just no animal was killed to make it. It's like cells extracted from the living animal. It doesn't like hurt them to have these cells taken out, and then in a lab, a scientist like creates a steak or whatever out of. So it'd be cool if like out of these cells, right, and can like duplicate that, and it's really cool. So if we could do that with like beetle meat or whatever, so that we could feed that to your spider, right? That would be ideal.
or what about? I'm curious about fish. So I know vegans don't eat fish, but vegetarians do.
No,
So
no, no, no. Pescatarians
a lot of
do.
people.
Like
Oh my
vegetarian,
god.
if an actual vegetarian, it just means they don't eat any kind of meat, but they do eat, or they can eat eggs and dairy, and they can wear leather and wool and fur and shit like that. But fish is an animal. Fish is meat. So a vegetarian would not eat fish, but a pescatarian is just like a vegetarian, except the only animal they eat is fish. So they eat fish and eggs and dairy. But
So
vegan,
do you accept?
yeah, it's
Or
just
go on.
sorry. Just veganism means no animal exploitation as far as possible and practicable. So no leather, no fur, no circus, no zoo, no meat, no dairy, no eggs.
So do you accept vegetarians on the same level as like vegans, or do you have them on the same level as
Well,
eaters?
well, as far as
Like in
consequences,
the middle.
no. Like because vegan or vegetarianism pays for the needless torture and killing of cows and birds. So, but a lot of like I started my journey into the animal rights movement as a vegetarian because I thought I didn't know any better. I thought that was good enough. I thought I just had to stop eating animals because I didn't realize about the cruelty and slaughter in the egg and dairy industry. And so in my mind, I was doing everything I thought I needed to do, So I don't want to like blame a vegetarian who is doing it for the animals, but simply doesn't realize yet that they're paying for slaughter still. So because that person like they're most likely going to go vegan. People who are yeah. So I want to like compliment people on the progress that they're making, and give them props where they deserve it. But at the same time, that person needs to go vegan as soon as possible. As soon as they realize what's going on, they have a duty to change.
Yeah, I understand.
And if they don't, like that's the thing. Like if they're vegetarian and they know about the slaughter and cruelty in the egg and dairy industry, and they just like either don't care or won't take action about it, then we have a problem. Yeah, that's why. Like there's a seriousness of you must go vegan and you must do it now. But yeah, so vegetarianism. A lot of times they'll think if they're doing it for the animals, they'll think, oh well, I'm doing my part. It's just kind of half-assed, right? They're like, oh, I'm already doing my part. Like I'm not eating animals. I'm not really the problem. You need to like aim at the meat eaters or something like this. It's like, no, 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 no. Hold on. So that's an issue for sure. But
So I'm just more. One is like, what if people are allergic to the products, these vegan products like soy?
they don't have to eat
Are
it.
they just like they have?
They don't have to eat
I
it.
don't know, but like hypothetically, if someone is allergic to a product, like all vegan products, just hypothetically,
Well, okay,
like
so
would they
so
be exempted from that, or
you mean if they're allergic to every vegan food? Like, if you're okay, we'll run with it. Okay, I don't think a person like that exists, but if they did, then I wouldn't try to force them to be vegan if it's gonna send them into a serious allergic reaction. Like, they have the right to live, and it's not their fault. But that's like a survival situation. Most people aren't in that situation, and most people who do have a lot of severe allergies can still be vegan. I have a friend, Dale. He's a cartoonist for The Simpsons, and he has like a whole big list of allergies, and it's a pain taking him to a restaurant, but like we love him, but he's still vegan anyways because he takes it seriously. He realizes that his inconveniences are nothing compared to what the animals are going through in the farms and slaughterhouses, and so he makes that little sacrifice. He's going to have to do it anyways to some degree since he has allergies, so might as well take the next step for justice.
Yeah, I got another question. This is the last question.
Okay.
So, I don't want to be like personal, but like, if you've grown up in a like 2-parent household family, like you're financially well off, you can afford this stuff. You got people that aren't. Like,
yeah, but
can't afford. Like you are straight in the like bottom.
Sure.
And you have to get the meat. Like.
Yeah, I understand. So like, if somebody's living in if somebody's living in a food desert, or if they just don't have access to plant foods, then that's not our target audience, and we're aiming at people who are more privileged, like most people who can choose to buy something and make it their. Then that will have like a spillover effect of making it more accessible eventually because more people are buying that product, supply and demand, right? They're going to start filling the shelves in restaurants with more of those products, thus making it more affordable for anybody who was suffering before to be able to afford it. But really, it's cheap as hell already, right? So like rice and beans are super cheap. Pasta, potatoes, vegetables, super cheap. Fries at the Burger King, super cheap. You got dollar menu at Taco Bell, rice and bean burritos and stuff. So yeah, so like it's already just a myth that a vegan diet is more expensive. But if there was some crazy situation, then like we understand, right? Do what you got to do.
One of these are like, say like there's a single mom who goes to work every day.
Yeah.
Comes home, and it's just more efficient for her and better for her to make a full meat diet. And it's more healthy for the kids.
Well, no, that's the thing. No, hold on.
A full diet.
Well, that's the thing. Like no, because meat is like really bad for your body. So is dairy and eggs, right? So like we don't want to be. That's the cost. Even if this single mother who's working 3 jobs or whatever, and I respect their struggle, and we need to make their lives easier. Okay, I'm against classism and stuff. Fuck the billionaires, right? But she needs to be in a situation where she can feed her kids a healthier diet, which would be a whole foods plant-based diet is the ideal thing. Because like the World Health Organization said that reported that processed meats like ham and turkey, deli meats and burgers and chicken nuggets and stuff like this, hot dogs, processed meats are a class 1 carcinogen. Class 1 carcinogen means it's the same as cigarettes as far as causing cancer. Okay, so we should not be feeding that to children. And then the World Health Organization also said in the same study that, or meta-analysis, that red meat, so that was processed meat, is class 1 carcinogen. Red meat, like steak, is a class 2 carcinogen, which means like it most likely causes cancer. But it's not as sure as they are that processed meat causes cancer. So like, yeah, we shouldn't be feeding that to kids. Cholesterol, that's just cancer. Like cholesterol is only found in animal products. And cholesterol increases the risk of heart disease. It's atherosclerosis, which is the leading cause of death for humans, is heart disease, caused by clogging of the arteries by eating cholesterol, which we don't need to eat. And so as a vegan, I have a 0 cholesterol intake, which means my risk of heart disease is way lower than anybody who eats meat or dairy or eggs. So if we care about children's health, and if we care about this woman, this single mother who's struggling to feed her kids, we need to make it easier for her to buy plant foods.
Well, also, you say that it causes cancer, which I believe, but almost like everything in the world kind of causes cancer.
No.
Background radiation causes cancer. Lead causes cancer. Like just touching stuff.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of stuff that causes cancer. So why is it just?
Well, not.
More research.
Sure. No, I hear you. I hear your concern, and to some degree it's valid, but I think it's overstated. Like, not not most things cause cancer, and also fruits and veggies don't, right? And pasta and things like this. So, and vegan burgers, vegan chicken nuggets, there's no link to cancer. And these other things that you're saying, quote unquote, cause cancer, random objects in our house or whatever. Uh, are not class 1 carcinogens, and we don't imbibe them 3 times a day.
So what about you say like they have vegan stuff at like Burger King and stuff, but when you buy that vegan stuff, does that still do you still like you're kind of supporting the, the people that package and sell real meat to
Yeah,
people that you don't eat kind of thing? It's like good.
yeah,
How does that work?
that's a good question also. So I think that a lot of times there's no vegan business to support, right? So like we don't have any option. There's no vegan grocery stores, right? There's not always a vegan restaurant in your town, so you got to do what you got to do. But also, I think it can be helpful, even though it's of course helpful to support vegan businesses and help them grow. But you can also support the animal rights movement and the environment by buying vegan products from non-vegan businesses, because it shows them with a supply and demand chain. It shows them, look, there's demand for this product, so you should supply it. And so if you buy a vegan burger at a grocery store, we're going to restock that product because they see that it sells. And so it's not like you're paying them to put meat on the shelves. You're paying them to put vegan meat on the shelves, and that's good, not just for you and your like moral accountability with them, but also it makes it more available for other people to eat it and to afford it, and to see it on the shelves and stuff like this, to be exposed to it, and so that helps. So, and then eventually, they're just gonna sell more of these products at these restaurants and grocery stores, and then eventually you're gonna see it's gonna be a half and half menu, and then we're gonna take it over.
Last. So do you recommend like supplements like vitamins?
Yeah, definitely. So doctors recommend that everybody, whether you're vegan or not vegan, take a daily multivitamin to make sure you're getting ample minerals and nutrients and vitamins. So especially vitamin D, which comes from the sun, but you got to be out there for a long time. And if you're out there for a long time, you might get skin cancer from the sun. So best just take a multivitamin, right? And then vitamin B12 for sure. But yeah, so a lot of most 40% of Americans are deficient in B12, and most of them are non-vegans. So we recommend, if you take your multivitamins, and the only way that like you're getting B12 anyways is because the animals you ate were supplemented with B12. Like the farmers put vitamins in their food for the cows to eat, and then you eat that. So the vegans are just eating the vitamins directly.
Okay. All right. That's all.
All right, cool. It's nice talking to you.
I don't really have an opinion on veganism, but all I say is you do you, and you do what you think is best.
I will, thank you. And I encourage you to do you as well, so long as you're not hurting any humans or animals, because if you start hurting humans and animals, you're no longer just doing you're doing them with a knife.
Mhm.
So, what do you think about us banning meat?
I don't really have an opinion on that, like I said, but I think it'd be kind of hard.
Yeah, we're gonna start with progressive cities, like smaller cities, and then spread to bigger cities, and then take over a whole state, and then other states will join us, and then it'll become a federal law. Is the plan.
Okay.
But yeah, all right. So, have you ever seen any slaughterhouse videos?
I haven't, and I plan not to watch them because I don't really like
Well, I don't like watching it either, but it's pretty important, don't you think? So, like, if you were suffering in a slaughterhouse, and all we had to do was watch it, and then get empowered and educated by watching it, and change our ways and save your life, right? Wouldn't that be like something we should do?
Mm.
Yeah. So like, as hard as it is for us to watch it, it's nothing compared to actually being the victim, experiencing the violence. So I would recommend like I know it can be really hard, but like at least like turn it on and turn your head to the side and just listen, maybe, so that you don't see all the blood, but listen to the screams at least. Listen to the screams, and and try to force yourself to watch a little bit of this stuff because the animals really need your help, and that like I bring this up because you said you don't really feel like you have an opinion on the issue, and I think that's because you're not educated about it. You haven't been exposed to the reality yet, and so of course it's a vague thing in your mind. It's very abstract. Oh, animals are killed for our food, la di da. But as soon as you see them kicking and screaming and struggling and fighting to stay alive and running away from us, and us covered in blood, stabbing them, right? It becomes very real, their struggle and our abuse of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a movie called Dominion. I'm going to post it in stage 1 text so everybody can mosey on over to stage 1 text. And this movie has 3 million views on YouTube. It's free, and it stars Joaquin Phoenix. Dominion. The idea of like we have like quote unquote dominion over the animals because we're smarter than them and we're stronger and all this. We're in this dominant position. We have dominion over these weaker beings. But the question is, what are we going to do with that power, right? Because we have dominion over dogs. Should we stab dogs? We have dominion over children. Children aren't as smart as us either. Should we stab the children? Well, they're going to grow up to be smart like us. What about mentally disabled people who are never going to be any smarter than a pig? Should we stab them? Or is that ableism, right? Discrimination based on somebody's intelligence level or their ability, right? We wouldn't do that to a human. We protect people with mental disabilities, make sure that they got caretakers and food and shelter. But with animals, that's the most common reason I hear, The most common I've had thousands of discussions about animal rights with people. And the most common thing I hear is that it's okay to treat animals with violence because they're not as smart as us. But as soon as I mention a human who is only as smart as a pig, they realize that ableism is not a justification for violence against animals. I find it interesting.
Now, what were you going to say?
I just find it interesting.
Now, I don't mean this to be like an argument or like against veganism or anything, but I'm like 98% sure that people are eating meat before people are eating plants, because like back in Egypt, that's when they first started agriculture and started actually growing plants. Before then, they hunted animals and cooked them.
You're right about agriculture, I think, but they were foraging prior to that. So yeah, there was some hunting, but to the best of my knowledge, our ancestors over the past couple 100,000 years, 300,000 years, I think, were mostly plant-based. They were mostly foraging, and there was some hunting, but yeah, this was before agriculture and farming. So yeah, foraging and hunting, but we're not in that situation, that's for sure, right?
Now, I don't really agree with the slaughterhouses. Like a better way of doing it. Like, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be eating meat. I'm not saying people should go 100% vegan meat, because like I said, I don't have an opinion. But there should be like really a better way about going, like not killing it. Kind of, I don't know. I'm just tired. It's almost midnight, and I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's cool.
But there should be like a better way. Like, slaughterhouses.
Yeah. Well, just remember, like, these animals are killed when they're children because it's not financially profitable for the farmers to keep them alive and keep feeding them for years. So they're killed when they're very, very young. So if you're against killing baby animals, you gotta stop eating baby animals. But also, even if their death was quick and painless, you wouldn't want it done to you. It would still be mean to do it to a dog or a cat who had their whole life ahead of them to just, like, shoot them in the back of the head. That's still animal cruelty, right? It's still cruel to cut their heads off when they don't want that to happen to them. It's not in their best interest, and we need to start including them instead of just us in this equation and what we want. We need to think about their needs and their desires.
People spray paint, like defacing property, like they're using like spray paint walls and stuff to promote it, and that's illegal.
Yeah, so lots of activists have broken the law for lots of different social justice movements, and depending on what law we're talking about, like MLK has a great quote about how we have a moral duty to break unjust laws. There's different schools of thought on that. Most forms of animal rights activism is legal and not even very controversial, but yeah, they're I tend to support nonviolent direct action. I don't really give a fuck about the law if it's oppressing innocent individuals, but I think there is importance to being nonviolent because that can help our opposition draw closer to us, but mostly it can help the audience who's watching draw closer to our side because they realize that we're just trying to help animals who did nothing wrong, who are suffering, and we're using love to do it. But we also are very, very mad about the situation. We should all be mad about animal cruelty, and we're taking action, and that ain't always pretty or legal.
Okay.
But like spray paint, like honestly, is that your main complaint? Is the spray paint, not the blood?
No, it's not my main complaint.
Okay.
Like, there's like other
Okay,
things
well,
like
no, I
riots
mean, no,
and stuff
I
too.
just, well, I mean, like, between those two things, did you just say riots, though? Sometimes some animal rights activists will go, trespass onto farms or slaughterhouses and, like, chain themselves up to the kill floor so it shuts the slaughterhouse down, and they'll, like, rescue some of the animals and take them to a vet and then take them to a sanctuary where they get to live their lives happy, safe, and free. Uh, yeah, so I don't have a problem with that. Like, if you were enslaved and being tortured and about to be murdered as a child, I would hope people would be willing to go to jail for the night to rescue you.
What can I help with my diet? Because I'm really thinking about becoming vegan.
Okay, cool. Why are you trying to become vegan?
I just decided to. Like, I just realized, like, all the slaughter animals go through, and
Cool.
I just can't bear with it. And I just kind of want to become vegan.
Nice. All right, cool.
Like, I think, like, out of, like, the most people here, I can vouch for most people here when they want to, at least most of them want to become vegan. Like, a few, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of open-minded people. Most people are against animal cruelty, and they're open-minded, and they want to get educated. They want to hear what these crazy vegans are talking about and why we're so crazy. It's like, well, because we're traumatized from watching slaughter videos all day. Like, what do you think? Like, like,
yeah, it's because I want to become vegan, but there's like these crazy people, like the vegan teacher, like that make me not want to become vegan.
Yeah, but it might
They're
be.
like just aggressively forcing.
Well, like, okay, there's two ways to look at that. Like, one is like you don't have to like that vegan teacher in order to respect animals and not kill them and be vegan, right? So, like, just ignore that vegan teacher, don't watch her stuff, and just follow somebody else, follow a different vegan on social media, who's more chill. Because there's lots of chill vegans, But remember also that, like, I think like, disruptive activism can be a really good thing. As long as we don't, be violent or racist or homophobic or anything like this, it can be really good to be controversial to get a lot of people talking about the issue, and then that drives you here to, talk to other people and learn more about it. But in any case, like, so I just think that I've done a lot of protests, and I upset a lot of people when I do it, but I just don't care because that's nothing compared to what the animals are going through, and like they're the real victims. And if these were any other group, like if it was any other group,
because you just wanna save the animals by like becoming vegan.
Yeah, and like if this was a different group of oppressed individuals instead of animals, if it was pick some oppressed group of people, right? This could be any of them, and like we would be enraged if they were in slaughterhouses we would all be up, like protesting and breaking into the fucking slaughterhouse to save these poor people. So what, these animals want to live just as much. They got babies they care about. It's just, I don't see why we get to do any of this. And
Yeah,
it's
like just imagine like if the votes were swapped.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important to take this issue very seriously and to show people how important it is. And that means, saying things like they matter, Because again, a lot of people just they don't care because they haven't watched slaughterhouse videos.
Yep.
They have no idea. Like, I had no idea before. I remember, like, I ate animals for 26 years. I've been vegan now for like 11 years, but I had never seen slaughterhouse videos. I didn't know what was going on. So it was easy for me to act like it was no big deal.
Yeah, because like most people don't know about those videos.
Yeah. But even still,
you don't really know like what type of torture they go through.
Yeah, but honestly, like I changed without having seen the slaughterhouse videos. I just realized one day because I watched a movie called District 9, a sci-fi movie that everybody should check out. It's not about animal rights. It's just this really entertaining movie about like aliens crash land on Earth. It's set in the future, like 20 years, and these aliens are like sick and vulnerable, like they've got a disease or something, some illness, and they're like sick and woozy, and the humans exploit the aliens' vulnerability and put them in these ghetto camps and give them these bad food and run painful experiments on the aliens because they're not human, right? They're different than us. So the humans are discriminating against the aliens because of a different species, and so it got me thinking about like discrimination in general and like racism, but I was like, but it's not racism because these aliens aren't even the same species as us. So I was like, speciesism, and then the next day I was eating a steak and I was like looking at this piece of flesh and I was like, wait a minute, like I'm discriminating against this cow for not being human in the same way that the humans in that movie were discriminating against the aliens for not being human, but I was against them doing that to those aliens because in the movie when I was watching it I was like, it doesn't matter that they're not human, leave them alone, right? Like they still feel pain and pleasure, and these aliens have kids and like they care how they're treated, they don't want to die and they're not trying to hurt us. And then like all that applies to animals though, and so like the next day I was just like, I just pushed that steak away in the middle of it and I ordered something else, a salad or some shit, and like I was like, I'm just going to try something else because this all of a sudden doesn't sit right with me. I was 26,
Because if you think of it seriously, like if you give it like a few minutes to actually think about like all the abuse that they go through, it actually convinces you.
Or just the killing.
Most people at least.
Yeah, or just the killing itself, even if it was quick and painless, just taking their lives away,
With all, with all the stuff that they go through.
Yeah, and that speciesism, because I told myself, I was like, I'm nice to my dog. Why am I paying someone to stab a cow? Right?
Yeah, that's like, I have my own dog as well. And like I love him and I take care of him every day and then I'm literally eating meat like almost every day.
Yeah, and that's just that speciesism again, just like racism or sexism. Like if somebody can really tell me the difference, or that ableism of saying, well, they're not smart like us, so we can do whatever we want to them.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, buddy, no deal. So, like, for the same reason that we think it's wrong to kick a dog, it should also be wrong to kill a dog. And for the same reason we think it should be wrong to kick a pig, it should also be wrong to kill a pig. It's even worse to kill somebody rather than just kick them, Like, kicking somebody's going to give them a bruise, and that's bad to do to somebody, but they'll get over it in a couple days, But if you shoot them in the back of the head, even if it's a quick and painless death, like, you just robbed them of their entire existence, right? So, like, that's way worse.
Yeah.
So as far as, like, what to eat, there's a Veg Curious roll here in this server. Anybody can get it if you're serious. Like, if you want more information about going vegan, the Veg Curious role can be given to you by a moderator, and that just opens up more channels on this server to get like a Help Me Go Vegan chat where like you can jump in there and people are like trained to answer any specific questions you have. It's all free, we're just volunteers, and like but we'll give you like recipes and advice about where to shop and stuff like that. But there's also an app. You can download this app called Happy Cow. So Happy Cow will tell you where all the vegan restaurants are near you. Just type in where you're at, and it'll say there's a vegan restaurant here, here, and here. Or maybe it'll say like there's no vegan restaurants near you, but here's a restaurant that has a lot of vegan options. Or you can just do a Google search of vegan restaurant near me, and it'll tell you also
Yeah.
just regular restaurants that have a lot of vegan options too. So that's one thing, and then you can do like nutrition guides online, just like healthy vegan nutrition guide. Just type that in, healthy vegan nutrition guide, or healthy vegan recipes.
I think the slaughterhouses should they're messing up. They need to figure out what they're doing. As again, they're treating the animals very poorly. Okay.
Well, yeah.
I like eating meat, and I just don't like how the meat I'm eating is like treated really bad. But honestly, I think that the people that are running these slaughterhouses, I think they're bribing, like the federal agency that inspects these stations.
Okay,
What you
yeah.
call it, slaughterhouses.
Yeah.
Because I mean corporations and all this stuff, want to do all that just so they don't get caught.
For sure.
So
yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna address that real quick. That you're right. That like there's a lot of connection between the government and these big businesses. Like the meat industry is like it's huge, multi-billion-dollar a year industry, right? And they're in bed with politicians and government officials and inspectors and things like that. So that's true. But yeah, go ahead.
I remember when you were mentioning about like making meat like completely illegal. Yeah. Honestly, I think that's very hard to like complete. I mean, like you're gonna have to like talk to tons of politicians, and as I know, politicians, if you do something for them, they'll do something for you. I mean, that's the game, right, for them. And
yeah, but we need public support.
How you gonna like?
Yeah, we need public support first. So like
We need tons of it.
Yeah, we need a lot of public support. So that's why we're starting with educating and motivating people like here on Discord, and getting a bunch of attention to the issue by protests and animal rescues that get media coverage and stuff like that. But there have already been changes to the law. So like let's take the California fur ban, for example. So recently in California, we banned the sale of fur because of the animal cruelty involved. And the way it started was a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago. West Hollywood started this. West Hollywood is a small progressive city in California, and these activists just went to their politicians and showed them the legislation that they wanted to be introduced. And they found some sympathetic politicians who also care about animals and have seen videos of animals being skinned alive for their fur, right? Or anally electrocuted, or caught in steel hold traps and screaming and biting off their own legs to try to get out of the trap to get back to their babies, right? So these politicians agreed with the activists and said, okay, yeah, let's vote on it. And they got enough of their fellow politicians to support it, and we banned the sale of fur in West Hollywood. And then the activists did the exact same thing in Berkeley, California, which is another small progressive city in California, more up north, and they banned the sale of fur in Berkeley. And then they went to San Francisco. San Francisco is a big city, big tourist spot, lots of fur being sold in big fancy stores to rich people in San Francisco. But we banned the sale of fur in San Francisco. And then Los Angeles was like, oh, we're cool too. We're like SF. We can keep up with San Francisco. We banned the sale of fur, right? And so like this was just, and then we took it to the governor of the state of California, and he signed it, right? Because he could have said no, but there was enough public support, and there was enough cities that had already did it that he signed it, and we banned the sale of fur in the whole state of California. And this took like 3 years to do, just 3 years, and 300 activists, like a tiny handful of people, right? Considering how many millions of people live in California, it's just 300 activists, right? And and it was a $40 million per year industry. The fur industry in California was making $40 million per year, and we shut it down.
That's a very good thing. Honestly,
Yeah.
I do not believe that fur is like a very good thing to sell. Honestly, it's just really messed up. I don't know why. I don't know why anybody. I don't know why anybody should be selling fur to anybody at all. I
Well,
mean,
what's
it's
wrong
just
with fur? What's wrong with fur?
Well, I mean, you're cutting it off of them. You're hurting them. I think.
Yeah. Well, what if they did it, quote unquote, humanely? What if they killed these young animals in a fast way, and instead of, like torturing them,
He's like,
would it be okay then?
yeah.
Why?
I mean, do you mean like by like shearing them or like trying to take off the
No, I mean
fur?
like
Like
kill.
that?
No,
Or,
I
like,
mean
without
no,
hurting them?
no. I mean killing them and taking their fur.
Oh no, that's a terrible thing.
Why?
That's a terrible thing.
Why?
But I don't think.
Why?
Well, because you're killing. It's cruelty. I mean, you're just killing them, and then you're just taking their fur. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Why would you want to kill them and take their fur? I mean,
for pleasure.
Why sell it to rich people?
Yeah,
and
for
to include,
for pleasure.
For pleasure, of course. I mean, that's the whole. Yeah, that's like the whole point for every single company in the world.
So
I don't think anybody should be buying it or selling it or producing it or even killing animals for it, because either way, it's messed up.
Okay, so are you saying that? Are you saying that it's wrong to kill an animal for fur so that we can get the pleasure of wearing their fur, even though we don't need to? Even if the animal is killed quickly and painlessly, you think it's wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
And it should be illegal. Do you think it should be?
They don't need it.
Yeah. Do you think
Yeah,
do you think fur
should be illegal?
Okay, so you think fur should be illegal? Okay, so here's my next question, and I applaud you. That's great, and a lot of meat eaters agree with you that fur is immoral and should be illegal. But the question I have is like, what's the difference between fur and meat, or eggs or dairy? Because these are all products that are unnecessary and derived simply for our pleasure. Whether it's the pleasure of a nice fancy coat, or whether it's the pleasure of our taste bud. So that's all I'm saying is that I feel like I'm just being consistent and applying this to all animals and all products, and saying that we should not needlessly kill, even if it's quick and painless, we should not needlessly kill animals for products just for our pleasure, when we can wear something else and eat something else. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree a little bit. Though I don't just eat meat just to like enjoy it. I eat meat just to like eat it, not to like enjoy it for my taste.
Do you think that you can be healthy on a vegan diet?
Yeah, you could be healthy on a vegan diet.
Okay, so why do you eat animal products?
Well, I don't eat animal products, but like that's not like the only thing I eat.
Yeah, no, I understand, but like you do eat it, and if it's not for pleasure, because you were trying to say that you don't eat meat, dairy, and eggs for pleasure, but you're also not eating it because for your health, because you realize that you don't have to eat it for your health. So if you're not doing it for pleasure or health, why are you eating it?
Energy and calories. I mean, honestly.
That sounds like health.
It's also helpful.
Hold on, that sounds like health.
Yes, that's health too. I mean, it's not the very healthy option, but it's helps a little.
But you realize
it's like really good.
Okay, but you could get equal or better energy and nutrients from a plant-based diet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so.
For sure.
Yeah, so I would just say like remove that as a reason, like remove getting energy and stuff as a reason for why you do or should eat animals. And also remove the first thing we were talking about. What was the first thing? It was health and pleasure, health and pleasure. Because if you don't get pleasure out of eating these things, then it's like animals are being tortured and killed for nothing, basically, because you don't need to do this. You don't even. It seems like you don't even want to. Why are you doing it? Is it just because everybody else is doing it, because of convenience? Like it's tradition, it's habit. Everybody's doing it. It's accessible. It's when you go to a drive-through, they don't have many vegan options, so it's just easier. That kind of thing.
Honestly, that is a really good point.
I just have a couple questions because I'm not a vegan.
You will be soon.
I grew up on like a farm most of my life.
All right.
I just wanted to know your opinion on like people who like hunt locally sourced or self-owned small farms.
Okay. Yeah, it's needless animal cruelty. Even if it's quick and painless, it's mean to take their lives from them. They want to live. It's not in their best interest, and we don't need to do it. There's worse ways of treating an animal, but that doesn't make this okay either. And we wouldn't want it done to us. We wouldn't do it to dogs. There's no legitimate difference between those animals and dogs, or between them and us when it comes to ethics, because intelligence, though we are smarter than them, is not a justification for causing needless violence to an individual, right? Intelligence. That would be ableism. So just because they're different, just because they look different, they don't speak our language, and whatever, they're not trying to hurt us, so we have no justification for needlessly killing them, or breeding them, raising them, slaughtering them, any of that.
All right. Well, I see where you're coming from, but I just want to I just want to say that, or at least confirm that you're doing this because you're interested in, or you want the better for the animal, right? You rather not have the animal suffer, like and feel pain and it doesn't have to, right?
Or die.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think happens to a deer when it's in the wild, right? Because if a deer is kept in captivity and given food and not, just to give it the best possible conditions, deer can live, I think, up to like 10, 14, I think around 14 years, something like that.
Are you saying that we should domesticate all the deers to protect them from the wild?
No. What I'm saying is, I don't think. Well, in the wild, a deer usually doesn't live past the age of, I think, around 4 or 5. Wild animals are not like humans. They don't die of old age. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, they might.
They either die to some predator or they die from disease.
Right, or the elements.
In my opinion, I would prefer, as a deer, to be quickly and painlessly killed by either a shot, with a bullet to the head, or to the lungs, or to the heart, which is, in my opinion, a lot less gruesome and painful than getting ripped apart alive by some type of predator, like a bear or a lion.
Sure, I hear you.
Or whatever is predator of a deer, right? Because it's not pretty. If you ever see on like National Geographic, right? Usually, what happens is, a lion's instinct is to go for the neck and hold it down until it bleeds to death, or rip it apart, and or like a pack of dogs will usually just rip apart the meat alive, taking chunks of flesh out at a time, right?
Yeah, sometimes they'll try to.
If I'm gonna live to like 4 years old, anyway, because most of the time when you're hunting deer, you're not going for a 2-year-old deer. You want like a 2, 3, around the time that around the age where a deer would naturally be killed anyway by predators or disease, which would be even more painful for the deer.
That's the thing.
I think in that situation, it would probably be more ethical to kill a deer yourself and feed yourself and possibly others with the meat.
Okay.
And I just can't see how that's
okay, cool.
unethical.
Yeah.
And
so
another thing is,
let's do one thing at a time. Cool. Okay, so I think it's a concern worth mentioning. So I'm glad you brought it up. The thing about it is, though, we don't know when they're going to die, and we're cutting their lives short. Now, an argument could be made, though, for your sake, for your side, that like if I would I rather live 5 more years, or whatever number it would be that they would live longer if we hadn't hunted them, right? Because I think that like we're not killing old, helpless animals who can't escape a predator. We're killing animals in their prime when we're hunting, right? So these animals do, in fact, I think, have several years of life left in them, potentially 5 or 10. Okay, but let's call it 5. So let's say, though, here's the thing: would I rather live 5 extra years and get eaten alive by a pack of wolves, or would I want someone to kill me quickly and painlessly right now? I want to respect those years of existence that they still have ahead of them.
Rip apart, or would you rather just take a bullet to the brain and?
Well, that's the other thing, though, is that a lot of times, though, these hunters don't get a one-shot kill. Like, you know, they'll oftentimes will have to track. Hold on. They'll have to track an animal who's wounded and to follow the blood trail and then put the animal out of their misery, right?
That's true, but the possibility of shooting a deer in the brain is absolutely possible, especially with newer technology.
Okay, but here's a problem with.
Accurate.
Sure, but like I would like to see some stats on like I don't know if stats exist on this, but like how many hunters get a one-shot kill, because then we're talking about like destroying your entire argument, because if they are still suffering with a bullet in them and panicking. Have you
personally when I hunt deer, I try and make it a one shot.
I'm sure you try, but my question is not just for you; it's for everyone, because this isn't just
pretty small, right?
Well, this isn't just about you, though. Like, if we're talking about whether or not to, make hunting illegal.
I'm not arguing for.
Okay.
I'm not arguing for other people. I'm only really arguing for myself.
Okay.
Just in your perspective.
Sure. Okay. My question for you is have you always gotten a one-hit kill? How often do you get a one-hit kill? How often does an animal suffer when you hunt them through pain? Through pain and fear. How many animals out of 100 or out of 10 suffer some kind of pain and fear when you hunt them?
Most of the time, not much, and if it is, I would say it's probably still less than the fear that they experience while being hunted down by.
How long do they suffer for?
Like a pack of wolves, for example, because there's a lot more that goes into it when a predator is attacking an animal.
But like,
it's not just oh, I've been bitten, now I'm bleeding out and I died, right? It's usually, what was that sound down there in the woods?
Yeah.
Am I
Sure.
looking for me?
Sure. So look, we can
now
try
I have
to
run for my life, and there's like always a chase. If you ever see animals getting hunted, there's a chase,
and that's scary.
There's a lot of fear, a lot of that going on when you're being chased for your life. I mean,
right, but there's also
an animal.
There's also a lot of fear, though, when you've been shot and you're trying to escape and you're bleeding all over the place. So that's my point.
I would say it's much less.
Well, even if it is, like, we can try to look. We can try to quantify different levels of harm and stuff. But let's try to throw this into a human context. Like, if we know that in 5 or 10 years somebody is going to be mauled to death, should we kill them now? Should we make that decision for them and kill them now? Would we want it done to us? I personally, you asked, what I would prefer, and I think that, like, as terrible as being eaten alive would be, I would probably rather have an extra 5 or 10 years of good quality living, and I'm also, like, part of my existence is helping the world, and so, as an activist for human and animal rights, and so I think that.
Oh, are you saying like putting it to human terms?
Yeah. The amount of good I can do for the world in 5 years
that is a human,
might
translate this to a deer. It's a little different.
Okay, but so let's say it's a mentally disabled human that's only as smart as a deer. So should we now they've got 5 to 10 years. They've got 5 to 10 years left of.
They would be mauled.
It's the exact same situation as a deer.
I mean, we do that, right? When people are in a coma.
I think that's like disanalogous because we're talking about like an aware being, somebody who is conscious as opposed to being in a coma. I'm just talking about somebody who is mentally disabled or brain damaged to the point where they're only as smart as a deer, but they still are a sentient being like a deer. They still feel pleasure and are able to enjoy their lives. Simple, basic stuff, but they enjoy it nonetheless.
Right. But I also think this is an unfair comparison due to the fact that, what a human can do in the amount of time simply because of, levels of... Well,
yeah, we're talking about a mentally disabled person, though.
Right. Well, I mean, the time that if we're gonna take back, if we're gonna take away the one advantage that humans have over a deer, and then say that the amount of time should still be accounted for, if that makes sense, I don't think that's a fair argument. Because if a person is now like brain dead, right, and they're as smart as a deer, stretching the time to fit the amount of time that a deer, it just doesn't really make sense.
Well,
I
they're
don't
not
know.
brain dead. They would be brain damaged or have a mental disability.
Brain damage.
But like these people exist already. There's people who are less intelligent than a deer.
Look, if there was a person who was brain damaged, and well, how do you brain damage? Like how brain like with autism?
It doesn't matter. We don't have to put a specific to it. I can show you videos if you want of severely disabled people. But like, just think of
Look, if I knew that they would die in a way that would
think of it as
cause
like
lots of suffering,
look, think of it
I
like
would
this.
rather
Like,
pull the plug.
just look, like think of it like this. Pigs are as smart as 3-year-old children. Okay, these animals they nurture their young, right? They escape from predators a lot of the times, right? So these are smart beings. Like whether we're talking about deers or pigs or whatever, they're not as stupid as we prejudicially think they are.
Deer
And
are much less intelligent than pigs are.
well, even if that's the case, it's irrelevant because we could find a mentally disabled person who's as smart as a deer, and then a mentally disabled person who is smarter than them, who's only as smart as a pig, and we wouldn't say we should kill either of them. And that's my point. And if it, I would still say that like maybe we should value their extra 5 or 10 years of pleasurable experience, and unfortunately let them get mauled to death, I guess, in this crazy scenario. But like that's
I don't know how I feel about that. I would not rather put someone through that suffering if I had the option.
well, I mean, just think about like how long the suffering is. I mean, I know the suffering is extreme, and we'll have to move on to a different call because we've been talking about this for a while. But like, I understand like the extreme levels of pain and fear that would come from being tortured, but that would only be for a few hours, one day. Whereas if we're talking about 5 or 10 years of a good life, um, I would probably give preference to the many 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 great experiences.
I, I, I still am gonna have to disagree, but I guess if there's not much time left, there's not really a point in arguing.
Okay.
Bring up a new point.
Well, yeah, sorry to cut it short, but I mean, it was a good conversation, and we can take it up again sometime, or you can join the stage again tomorrow, talk to somebody else about the same issue if you want, and get their input. So, but yeah, I think it's a really good conversation. But I, I, I don't want to, poison the well or accuse you or anything. I have a question. Like, if that was like, is that the only kind of animal killing that you support? Like, is in order to prevent the animals from suffering a worse death, or do you also support, the standard meat industry or hunting?
No.
Like,
I don't support the standard meat. I don't support trophy hunting. I don't support.
What about
hunting
you were talking about small local farms, though.
Dairy conversation where if I have a farm of goats and one of my or two of my goats have a child, and that child is that the goat is healthy and fine, and there's extra milk that I can extract from my goat. I don't see how that is at all immoral.
Okay, I'll address this. So, like, one thing is to say that, like, first of all, that's not where most milk comes from, and so we don't want to mislead people into thinking that milk is a cruelty-free enterprise, right?
I don't.
And I'm not saying you're trying to do that. I'm not. Yeah, I understand you're talking about like best case scenario kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that everybody. And it's just that's kind of the.
That is how it usually goes.
Well, no, that's the thing. See,
I'm saying in my personal experience, this is not an argument for other people.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like the way capital. Yeah, but
you think what I do is immoral or not?
Yeah, no, I understand. I just want to make sure everybody knows that like the way capitalism works is the big companies take over and buy out all the smaller farmers or smaller companies, whatever it is, and they torture these animals and kill them when they're babies. Okay, so there's that, and that's where like 99% of the milk comes from factory farms. Okay, and those animals are killed when they're children. So there's that, and like sexually abused. Okay, to get pregnant. Okay, so anyways. But if you're talking about like some ideal situation, okay, or like best case scenario to get this product, okay.
I mean, also a cow doesn't need to. A cow only really needs to have a child once a year to produce milk.
Yeah. So, but we forcibly re-impregnate them every year to keep getting them pregnant, so we could steal their milk from their babies and then kill their babies and eat their babies and then eat their mothers. So, like, that's the problem with dairy. But like, yeah. So in your situation specifically, like, yes, you could obviously be doing it way worse. You're not restraining the animals and artificially
Wait, but
inseminating
I just
them.
want to ask, real quick, do you think that in the best case scenario like that, it's still immoral?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain why. But it's definitely not like the top of my list, right? Well, it depends. Like, are you slaughtering these animals?
No.
Okay, well that's good. So when they get super old or as they age and their milk production declines, like they can't have any more kids and stuff like that, you don't send them to slaughter or anything.
Oh no, they usually just die of old age, which is actually more moral in my opinion, because a goat in the wild would never live to see old age.
Sure. Yeah, I hear that. Okay. But that could be an argument for rescuing animals, not breeding them into existence in captivity, and exploiting their reproductive system
True.
for
But
our
also, I don't think that you have a dog, or people who have dogs.
yeah.
You take care of your dog. Like yeah, they are in captivity technically, but it's not
Sure,
it's not
sure.
immoral in my opinion. It's kind of the same
Well,
thing. You kind of keep them as a pet, and you just kind of
yeah, the
not
caretaking aspect would
no,
be the same in the sense that, like, in both cases, you're being nice to the goat, you're being nice to the dog, you're not killing either one of them. Hell, maybe you're taking milk from the dog also. Okay, it sounds pretty gross to me, but why are we doing it to goats and cows? But anyway, I mean, like, this is breast milk from another species. It sounds pretty gross to me. It's like, it's titty juice.
eh,
Okay, but anyways,
very long.
grossness aside, and all the cholesterol that's in it that's bad for your body, and the fact that breeding animals and raising animals and feeding them is resource intensive and is destroying our environment, so we need to stop breeding animals. But also, then you have this issue of like we're trying to get this product out of them, and then we're promoting the idea that this is a food source and that we can use animals for this purpose, and that can really easily become a slippery slope where now all of a sudden people are like trying to do what we're doing, but now they're doing it. They don't care as much about the ethics of it as you do,
Well,
and so
yeah,
they are
but
slaughtering
then
their animals. And
they're not. But in that case, they're not doing it. And in
yeah,
our case,
they're not doing it in the way that you recommended. I understand that. So there's something to be said for your argument there, but I still think it's risky to be promoting these things as a food resource. But also, these animals, generally speaking, over the thousands of years, have been selectively bred and genetically modified to overproduce meat, dairy, and eggs. It's very taxing on their little bodies. What farmers do is with selective breeding, they just, they discard the runts and the smaller ones, and they breed together the bigger ones so that they can get more meat or more, whichever ones have the biggest breasts. Those are the ones that get bred for dairy and stuff. So, a lot of the times, even in these backyard operations, the animals are to some degree prisoners of their own bodies. And if we have land and money to take care of animals, they should be rescued animals, because there are a bunch of animals who already exist who are in desperate need of help. And sanctuaries are overloaded with, because they're nonprofit organizations that rely on charitable contributions from their supporters, and so they can't keep taking in more animals, and so we need people like you.
just in my culture, there's a lot of like caring for animals, and I'm not. I just don't see how what any of what I do is considered immoral,
But
and I think that
you
being
shoot them.
vegan is not the only option.
But you needlessly shoot
Did we
them.
just
Hold on,
did we not just have an argument, a conversation this whole time about
yeah, you needlessly shoot
what we
them
just talked about?
and
Right?
peel their
Is
skin
that all
off.
you got from this conversation?
Well, no, I mean that's like not caring for animals. I don't think.
Okay, so we just had this argument. We had this conversation.
Yeah, I
I
wasn't.
don't.
I don't know. I wasn't persuaded by your argument, so So you don't buy meat, dairy, or eggs, or anything with
No.
it in the ingredients.
No.
That's good. That's rare. That's not sustainable though. Like that's not actualizable for the whole world to live like that. Like most people have to be dependent on agriculture, and it can either be human or like plant
I feel like you're
agriculture,
not listening.
plant agriculture or animal agriculture. Well, no, I understood that you only care about yourself and whether or not you're
Right.
being moral, but I have a
Yeah,
concern
I'm
about
asking from
I
your
yeah,
perspective as a vegan.
yeah, I feel like I
Do you
answered
think that
that.
my arguments, you know, of what what I do, the way I care, the way I have animals on my farm. In your opinion, is that something that is immoral towards animals?
It's not as good as it could be. I think you should just grow plants and
Because I
stop
also know
hunting.
people who don't even hunt animals, and they only have animals that produce eggs and milk the same way I do, just minus the deer hunting.
Hmm.
So I don't know. What do you think about that? Because that's it's technically not vegan, but I don't see how that's much more immoral
Well, I already
than
explained,
what
like
vegan does.
we shouldn't be breeding animals into existence, into prisons of their own bodies.
It's not forced breeding. They breed
We
basically
okay,
naturally.
okay, okay, fine, fine. Even if there's no forceful breeding, we should not be allowing animals to breed on our land when we should be, if we have room and resources for more animals, they should be rescued animals. We should not be breeding animals into existence because there's animals who already exist who
Right.
need our help,
So we should stop
and
animals from
also
breeding on
breeding
open land.
breeding animals into existence is very detrimental to our environment, and all of these products are bad for our health.
This is not what I'm arguing. This is not my point here.
Okay, what's your
The
point?
point was there is no forceful breeding. There is a large plot of land where animals decide what they want to do, and they can be fed by humans, or they can decide to leave the property. There's absolutely nothing keeping these animals
Cool.
on my property.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, like,
Right. This
situation.
has been going on for generations, hundreds of years of my family raising and helping these animals, and in return, only taking eggs and milk.
Okay, so
I
like,
don't see how that's immoral.
yeah, so if a goat is overproducing milk, and their baby has,
There's no overproducing milk.
well, if their baby has gotten enough and there's excess, it's probably because they've been bred to produce more milk than they naturally would. But in any case, even if they weren't, if there is naturally some excess milk, if it hurts them to like be overflowing with milk and it won't just like drain itself or the baby's not going to drink it all, then do the animal a favor and drain it out of them so they're not overfilled or whatever. I would wonder why that would be though. Naturally, I would think the baby would drink enough and then it would stop. Like I don't know how that would
Well,
work, but
yeah.
it,
Also, the way that we usually, we feed the animals, we just kind of food out. The babies can participate if they want, so they also gain nutrition
okay,
through what we provide.
okay. So
So there
yeah,
is excess milk.
hmm yeah, but like, there's no need for us to drink that milk or eat those eggs. Give it back to the animals, give it to rescued animals, throw it away. Like, we don't need to treat this as a food source when it's bad for us.
I don't know. I would be more offended if, as a human, if we're going to put it in a human perspective, something was taken from me and it was then put to waste, it's thrown out. I'd rather have it at least be,
Well,
put to some use, giving some other
sure,
organism some type of nutrition.
okay, I understand. But like, do you need to milk these goats?
I don't need to, but
Well, then
I don't
maybe,
think it harms me.
yeah.
I think
Well,
it's a
maybe
net neutral
maybe take your
effect.
hands off their breasts. It's
Well, that's a
kind of
good thing.
weird. It's kind of weird. But like, as far, like
I don't think
ethics,
I don't believe that goats are
I don't know
put
how
in
they
stress.
like. I don't know if they
If
feel.
anything,
I don't
if
know.
anything, it's the opposite because there is uncomfortableness when an animal is producing milk. That's why there is an instinct for a mother to find her calf and to have the milk taken out of her through her behalf.
Yeah, and I would just think that
Because
naturally,
it is painful and uncomfortable.
yeah, but like I would just think that naturally they would only produce as much as they need to feed their baby, and so there's no need in nature for humans to come up to giraffes or monkeys and drain
But
the
it's not
excess.
about
Hold on,
morality
hold
at
on,
this
hold
point,
on, hold
right?
on,
Now
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. There's no need for us to drain the breast milk from giraffes or monkeys. So why do we need to do this to goats or cows?
I said it before. I mean, there's no reason. There's no need, right?
Okay.
There's no need.
Okay,
I don't
but
wanna
well,
make
I
it
mean, you were
sound
saying
like
I just feel like you're saying that they're in pain if they don't get milked, and so
yeah.
okay, I don't know, man. I just think like
I'm not. I'm not milking a goat because she's in pain. That's not usually not the reason. I mean, that does help the goat, but that's not what's really on my mind. It's more just like I want some milk.
Yeah. Well, I am not a vegan.
you will be soon.
No, I will not.
Yep, you're gonna become a radical, crazy, extreme vegan just like me.
Innit? I understand. I understand your point. I think it's a good point. I think you've got a good point. Yeah, but I think it comes down to what you're not going to hear from a lot of non-vegans. I just don't want to be a vegan. But it's a conscious decision that I'm making. Like, I understand what goes on. I know about the chicken boiling. I know about the fucking cow titty whipping, all that. I know what happens in the factory farm. But I just don't want to be a vegan. It's a conscious choice that I'm making
Why are you making that choice?
because I like meat.
So just pleasure?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just don't think that pleasure is a good justification for needless animal cruelty. But you disagree.
Well, no, I wouldn't disagree.
Okay, so well then it seems like there's a contradiction. Like it seems like you're against the thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's, impressive. Most people don't admit when they're being hypocritical, and so I admire you for that. The next step would just be to find the motivation to change if you realize that what you're doing doesn't have a good justification or a reason or an excuse, and that you shouldn't be doing it, and that pleasure doesn't justify animal abuse. So just make your actions align with that moral value that you already have, and then you won't be inconsistent, and you won't be a hypocrite no more. You'll probably feel better about yourself, and you'll be saving lives and helping the environment and improving your health. So, I realize.
I'm not going to do it.
Okay, well, eventually you will, because we're going to shut down all the slaughterhouses, so you won't be
Why?
able to. Yeah, so you won't be able to stab animals anymore, even if you want to.
Yeah, but then it'll be too late. I'll just go somewhere where you can't find me.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you'll have to move to. Yeah, we're going to drive you out of the country, and you'll have to move somewhere that's not as nice.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
If that's what it takes, and that's what it takes, really.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
I'll go to the carnivore, I'll go to the carnivore, whatever you want to call it, like preservation or whatever. I'll be with all the monkeys and that.
Okay, I would just give some reflection on why you think this way. Like, is it because, for myself, I was raised eating animals. I ate animals for 26 years. It was just part of my everyday life. I did it 3 times a day, never thought about it, never saw any slaughterhouse videos. I know that you have and you don't care, but I was culturally indoctrinated, like most of us, right? By our parents and by the commercials on the TV, and all our friends are doing it, and the schools and the businesses and the grocery stores and everything, right? It's all kill, kill, kill. Animals don't matter, right? And so we just think that that's normal, and so we get brainwashed into discrimination, into speciesism. Just like if we were, white kids living in slave trading times in the South in America, we would most likely grow up to be racist assholes, because that's what our parents taught us, and humans are just social species who tend to follow the social norms of what everybody else is doing. And so it takes a rare type of person to stand up and say, hey, this ain't all right, you know. And like if I was the victim, I wouldn't want to be treated like this, and to, you know, just take a stand up for justice. But then once a small group of people start doing that, then that resonates with the broader population, because most people do want to make the world a better place and don't want to contribute to needless violence. But they're just disconnected from what's actually happening, and they're socially indoctrinated into believing that it's okay and normal. So we're changing society, and all that's going to change. We hope you join us and help us make the world change for the better. The sooner the better, right, for everybody. But again, you know, for whoever doesn't join us, we're just going to take over, and you'll be left in the dustbin of history on the wrong side.
I actually have a question.
Okay.
I just want to know where I stand, because I do believe what you're doing. I do believe that you're going to win, knowing how things are going right now. I do believe things are going to change, but I'm not taking that side. But I want to know, what do you plan on doing to remain in, like, let's just call them carnivals. What do you plan on doing to remain in carnivals?
Sure, that's a good question. So it's basically like any other social movement. So you know, we passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, making it illegal to discriminate on the basis of race. So therefore, black people can work wherever they want, sit wherever they want, eat wherever they want, etc. But there's still racism in society. So and you know, we made murder illegal, but people still murder, right? But the idea is to make as much improvement as possible and make new laws. If somebody's going to be racist, they're going to have social problems, right? There may not be any legal consequences or anything, uh, but if they live in certain areas, there's going to be social consequences. We're not going to want to hang out with them. We're going to, you know, call them assholes for being racist, stuff like that. Now, with animal cruelty, there's already laws against like kicking dogs, right? But some people will still kick dogs, and those people get socially shunned for kicking dogs if we see them do it. We might even like, you know, they might get beat up if somebody sees them kicking a dog, right? They might have to deal with legal repercussions, such as a fine for animal cruelty, or even jail time for animal cruelty, or having the animal taken away from them and given to a proper home. In a vegan society, people who would still seek to hurt animals would face social and legal repercussions, such as us not wanting, you know, if they're trying to like, there wouldn't be any meat on the shelves in the stores, so that's not how they would get it. They'd have to like go hunt in the dead of night or whatever, you know, to try to get away with it. But they'll be risking something because they're either going to get a fine or jail time for animal cruelty. So
Does that apply to predatory animals?
No, because they're not moral agents to the degree that we are. So, like, a lion would kill a human child if given the opportunity. Are we therefore justified in killing children simply because a lion would? No, we're held to a higher moral standard. Lions kill animals in order to survive. They're carnivores, and they don't know any better. But we are civilized human beings who can make compassionate choices.
What if I don't know any better? Because I've made it clear that this isn't a rational decision that I'm making.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm against the death penalty for humans. Like, I think that we should, like, if there's a serial killer, I think we should, like, separate them from society so that they can't hurt anybody, but still aim at, like, rehabilitative justice and a nice life in prison, and that kind of thing. But yeah, so, like, you, yeah, I understand that like you seem to not have any willpower, at least on this issue, and maybe your care for animals has just been beaten out of you through social indoctrination over the decades. That's really sad. We're gonna win with or without your help. It'd probably happen sooner if you help us.
No, you won't.
But in any case, yeah, like I'd say don't underestimate yourself, because you might surprise yourself one day and start caring. You know, something might click in you, and you start realizing you wouldn't want to be mistreated and that kind of thing. So, but even if you never change, it's all right. We're gonna win without you.
Right, I'm gonna let you continue moving people along.
All right, cool. Well, it's nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Just go vegan. Come on, just do it. All right, later.
Yeah, I'm Bartle. I actually just joined the server because I saw some people on YouTube that were trying to like infiltrate the server to make fun of some vegans.
Nice.
But then when I joined, I saw some people with it's like don'twatch.org.
Yeah.
And yeah, I saw I'm kind of aware of the conditions the animals are in. But after seeing some of the graphic stuff, like the male chick being ended up, I've decided to actually consider this stuff. So basically, I was just wondering, like, how, because it's been 17 years I've been like raised as a meat eater, right?
Yeah.
So how am I now supposed to go about trying to transition myself away from meat because it's so much easier for me to consume compared to like other products. So I'm just not sure how to get away from it.
Sure. Okay, well, like, props to you, first of all, for having a heart and a brain, and I think it's really cool that the trolls led you here. And that happens a lot, so that's why we're saying, like, we're not afraid of negative media coverage or, of people getting mad at us because it creates a conversation. And right now, society is not having a conversation about slaughterhouses, and they really need to. So it's good that people are talking smack about us. Anyway, so, and yeah, right on for watching the Slaughterhouse videos. Everybody check out Dominion, starring Joaquin Phoenix. That's the one you saw, right? Is that what Don't Watch is? Don'twatch.org?
No, that was a small trailer, but I've seen parts of Dominion, and I've also seen people like yourself, videos of that online, and also some like Vice News documentaries of people protesting various like slaughterhouse operations.
Okay, cool. Right on. So yeah, it's not as scary as it seems. I remember I was afraid of going vegan, and then one day I just wasn't afraid anymore. I just changed my priorities and I said, you know what? This ain't about me and my taste buds and my convenience and my habit and me not causing any ruffles in society or with my friends. Like, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. Like, I want to do what's right. I want to make the world a better place. I don't want to cause massive unnecessary suffering to conscious, innocent individuals who mean me no harm, right? So you just focus on the victims instead, put them at the forefront of your mind instead of the back burner, and put your own pleasure on the back burner instead. And you'll still get good food. That's what's cool. Like, it's not like you're now going to have a life with no pleasure. So don't worry. It's just, we got vegan burgers, vegan pizza, vegan sausage, vegan chicken, vegan cheese, vegan ice cream, vegan candy, and then we got rice, pasta, fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, beans, bread. And more companies are like, I went vegan in like 2009. So back then there was no vegan options at restaurants. There were hardly any vegan restaurants, and like there was hardly any options for vegan burgers and vegan chicken and stuff like that. But now, 12 years later, like there's options all over the place. So you're lucky that you're starting this now, So it's gonna be way easier for you, and you've got this network of activists here to like point you in the right direction. I had nothing. I had nobody. I didn't have a leaflet with any recipes or nothing. I was just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna get the bean burrito instead of the beef burrito because this don't sound right to be stabbing little animals. So yeah, so it's all about your mindset, priorities, and and don't underestimate yourself. Like pump yourself up. Like realize that you are strong and you can do it. You are smart. You've made this decision. You've made the connection to these innocent beings and this oppression, this injustice, and how horrific it is, and how they did nothing to deserve this, and we got no right to abuse the power we hold over these weaker beings. Right? This is like bullying. This is like picking on a little kid. Only worse because it's like being a serial killer towards a little kid, right? So it's way fucked up,
right.
and we just have to We have to realize how fucked up it is and take action and encourage other people to do the same, because the animals need us to not just stop eating them, they need us to stand up for their rights, all right? They need activists. And that doesn't mean you have to like cover yourself in fake blood and grab a megaphone like me, but like talk to your friends and family about this issue. Post about it on social media every now and then, encourage people to watch these videos that showed you how serious the situation is. And then once legislation comes around, help us ban meat. But in the meantime, it's there's a lot of different ways to help the animals, and part of that is just you can show people different vegan food so that they realize it's not disgusting, it's healthy, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
So we have we have a role in this server that a moderator can give you, called the Veg Curious role. Anybody can get this if you guys.
Oh yeah, I just got that like 5 minutes ago.
Okay, sweet. So that'll give you access to a channel in this server called the Help Me Go Vegan chat, and there people will gladly answer any questions you have about recipes or where to shop or where to get protein, stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, it's very helpful. But one thing, it's been a bit of a long process till like the last 6 hours now, where I finally kind of made up my mind about it.
Mm-hmm.
A while back, I did like a book from some firefighter that he talked about like plant-based diets and debunking how people say you can't get all your nutrients from it.
Yeah, so. Esselstyn. The firefighter's name is Rip.
Yes, that guy.
Rip Esselstyn. Yeah, he's a firefighter in Texas, right? And he went plant-based for his health, and he got a bunch of other firefighters, to put down the barbecue and stop eating all this meat and go on a plant-based diet, and they all did, and their heart disease disappeared. All their cholesterol levels dropped, and their doctors are like, "What did you do?" And they're like, "I stopped eating meat for like 3 weeks." And they're like, "Well, keep it up. You might have saved your life, and prevent a heart attack." So yeah, that's good stuff also. But another thing you should do is like create a social network. You got to find other people who care about this issue, because if you're by yourself, it's really hard. And if all your friends are making fun of you and tempting you to eat meat and shit like that, it's not a lot of fun. And I've lost some friends over this. But some of my friends, came around, but most of them did not. So you might need to find some new friends. You can do a search for like meetups.com and do like a search for vegan groups or animal rights groups. You can just find vegan groups on Facebook or whatever and join those groups and send friend requests to vegans on Facebook. And follow them on Instagram and stuff, so that even if you don't have any vegan friends in real life, you got some online that you can talk to. Come back and talk to us in this server, of course, stuff like that. But yeah, wear an animal rights T-shirt, and maybe some other vegan will be like, "Hey, I care about animals," and then you can, become friends and start doing protests and shit, whatever.
Yeah. And then I hope you don't mind if I monologue here, and a bit of it might be a bit of content warning.
Okay.
But I kind of want to give some context over my main question, which is getting over guilt over some stuff that I've done in the past, now coming around to this. So a lot of that is I've been raised in the south of the United States for my whole life. So I've been killing animals since I was about 6. I've probably killed around 30 or 40 of them, like out hunting, and also skinned a lot of them, used it all for getting meat. And about 2 years ago, last time I actually hunted, because I had shot an animal and actually had to see it run around. It didn't go off into the bushes, it just kept running in circles, and it wouldn't go down.
Yeah.
And we walked up to it with my dad, and he was laughing. And the whole time I was just, I just couldn't do it. So for the rest of the hunting trip, I would intentionally miss all my shots.
Cool.
To make it seem like I was trying. But now, a couple of years later, and I decided not to do that one. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm actually seeing other species as more on equal footing.
Awesome. And yeah, like I
like
mean,
wanting to give them rights and all that,
yeah, that's great. That's
and
really
skinning
cool.
those animals and having to walk
Yeah, and you have a powerful story to tell.
them die. It's like I just don't know what to do about that.
Sorry, you were cutting out a little bit, but I was saying you have a powerful story to tell. These transformative stories are really important for the movement, for any movement. Like when a KKK member drops out and starts fighting for black rights. That's really impressive, right? That like strikes a chord with people, and it empowers other people in the opposition to join, because they realize, oh, well, I'm like that, but I've had these thoughts. Maybe I should change, that kind of thing. So, and there's stories of like slaughterhouse workers going vegan and cattle ranchers going vegan, and these are really impactful stories.
Having to like skin animals and initially being raised, like seeing it as like a positive thing and being excited to kill something, whereas now like looking back on the glee that I experienced from that and feeling just intensely ashamed, I guess, of having enjoyed that in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. I feel the same way, like I ate animals for 26 years, which means that I paid people to needlessly torture and kill like 2,000 harmless animals. And I feel really bad about that. And so I'm trying to, I don't know if I can make up for it, like those victims are dead and gone, and I'm in part responsible for that. I don't want to beat myself up too much because I was raised in this culture that taught me to think this way, and so I was a victim also, but definitely not as much of a victim as the real victims, which are the animals. But in any case, like we don't want to beat ourselves up too much or beat each other up too much either. But at the same time, we have a duty now that we know better to do better, and the animals really need our help. But don't live in regret. Like let that like there's a difference between guilt and shame. So shame is like this is in psychology. Like shame is detrimental because it like forces people's defenses up. It makes us feel worthless and like we can't change and that we're undeserving, and this kind of thing. But instead, but it is legitimate to feel guilt over having done something wrong. But when we're a product of our environment, we need to factor that in also, though. But yeah, feel guilty for what we've done, but don't feel so ashamed of ourselves that we immobilize ourselves. Because a certain level of guilt is good because it can motivate you to action, to alleviate the suffering of current and future victims, and to fight for the cause. But yeah, you just don't want to paralyze yourself with regret and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, like, I think it's really admirable that you're making this admission and essentially a public apology to the animals and like in front of everybody. Like, that's really, really brave of you and honorable. And I think you're going to be a great activist. So you're already doing animal rights activism. So
yeah, I hope so.
Yes.
And sort of down that same line, I guess, is there's really, really stupid stuff that, like, just thinking about, I'm not sure how I'm going to let go of it. Like, even thinking about all the suffering that all the animals have gone through and, like, wanting to go vegan now, it feels like it's going to be such a hard process to, not just, like, with food, because there's some food, like, for example, I like to do a lot of French baking and cooking,
Okay.
and that involved tons of dairy and egg.
Yeah, but there's egg. Well, let me just address that real quick. Like, there's egg replacer. There's vegan egg. There's you instead of milk, you use any of the like thousands of plant-based milks that we have now. So there's vegan baking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have heard like coconut milk can work. I don't
really
stuff like crepes. I've just never been able to
Yeah.
I don't. It's such a stupid thing. It's just I don't. It's so hard to separate myself from that.
Yeah, I understand. But yeah, just do a Google search or, find some YouTube content creators like vegan chefs or vegan bakers or whatever, and you'll be really surprised because, yeah, it's super good and doesn't have all the dead bodies in it.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. When I eating dinner tonight, it was I was kind of sitting there, like I was hungry, but I just couldn't bring myself to actually eat it. Like,
Yeah.
but then at the same time, like I guess in some products where it's not like clearly meat, I don't know. It's just harder psychologically.
Sure, I understand. Yeah, more far removed and stuff, but um, yeah. So whenever you're getting a craving or feeling weak or whatever, just remember your buddy Chase here went on a 5-day hunger strike back in 2015 around Christmas time for the animals to try to show people how serious this is. And I went 5 days with no food, and I could have gone longer, but one of my friends was like, "Look, I'll go vegan for 2 months. Just eat something." And so I ate something, and but in any case, fuck hunger, fuck all that shit. Like just prioritize things right, and you'll be fine. And remember the victims, and think about them. Don't be selfish. You'll be fine. The first 3 weeks might be a little rough. Like psychologists say that it takes 21 days to break a habit, whether it's stopping smoking cigarettes or stopping drinking alcohol or starting a new exercise routine or a new diet or whatever it is. It takes about 21 days, about 3 weeks to change a habit. So just persevere, break on through to the other side, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. And then I guess I have just two more questions.
Okay.
The first, when it comes to a lot of my like makeup products, I'm finding in terms of like financially, it's very difficult. A lot of the vegan makeup products are much more expensive, and so I'm not really sure how to like go about getting that stuff. Is there like resources for like cheaper products that are vegan? Because there's a lot of like proprietary stores that really upcharge for that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know too much about cosmetics, but there would be maybe some sources on like PETA's website. PETA has a lot of resources for cruelty-free cosmetics, stuff like that. And hopefully they'll have, like, you can even do a Google search. I don't know if you've tried this yet, but like um, inexpensive vegan makeup or cheap cruelty free makeup or something like that, and maybe some brands will show up. And if there's no store that has it, maybe you can have it shipped to you. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll definitely check it around there then. And then for my last one, it's just related to like animals, or it's, I guess, is it okay to call them pets? Companions might be better.
Yeah, I would just say friends, your little animal friends, your companion animals. You're their guardian, their custodian, their caretaker, not their owner.
Yeah, but like currently I have a dog and a rabbit. Both of them are adopted, and the rabbit was adopted out of a pretty bad situation.
Okay, cool.
I know about like I don't quite know how to treat them more like equally without jeopardizing I guess some of their safety. Like for example, with the rabbit, like in order to protect him, he often has to go. It's not a super small cage; it's like pretty large, but he'll go eat cords in the house and shock himself.
Oh yeah.
So I feel bad putting him in the cage at night, even though it's for his own safety, because I can't watch him during the day.
Yeah.
Or with my dog, having to keep them on a leash when I'm out in the back.
Sure. Yeah, so don't worry about any of that. Like, it sounds like you're doing fine. You're a great caretaker for these animals. You adopted them instead of buying them. That's good. So Yeah, like it's called paternalism. Paternalism is like it's kind of like taking care of a child, right? So animals are like children. They're totally innocent and completely at our mercy, right? They're not as intelligent as us. They'll walk into the road and get hit by a car if we don't stop them, whether it's a dog or a rabbit or a kid, right? So we restrict their freedoms because it's in their best interest. We only restrict their freedoms to the degree that it's in their best interest, and otherwise we let them try to be as free as possible. Um, but yeah, like we'll take a kid to the doctor to get a shot, for medicine, and the kid's like afraid of the needle or whatever. But we realize it's in their best interest. This is a temporary suffering. It's not a lot of suffering. They might not understand why it's happening, but hopefully they'll adapt. Animals are usually pretty good at adapting. Um, uh, so yeah, I don't know. Does the rabbit like freak out when you put him in the cage, or
Oh no, I always give him a treat so he goes in there.
okay, or if nothing else, maybe there's something else you could do, like make a bigger cage, or whatever. But yeah, as far as like a leash, yeah, you're just protecting them, so nothing wrong there.
Alright. Yeah, they're pretty comfortable like being held and stuff. Like they used to, at least especially the rabbit used to freak out, but now they seem to enjoy it. So I think it's okay.
Okay, cool. And yeah, like you don't, as far as like treating them equally and that kind of thing, like you don't have to view animals as equal to human in all respects or superior to humans or whatever. Like you can still value a human more than an animal, but just not stab the animal, right? That's all we're saying is like value the animal more than a sandwich. Value the animals more than your taste buds. You don't have to think they're as important as your family or anything like this. Um, but yeah, but some animals are better
Right,
than
right.
some animals are better than some humans, though. So
Yeah, that's very true. Um,
just
and then
think,
I guess the very last one, a bit more personal. So I think it's been like 2.5 years now since this happened. Um, but my very first dog that we had, um, he he's basically like a brother to me in a way.
hmm
But he got really really sick, and so we decided to euthanize him, or my parents did.
yeah,
Um, what like now that this other dog like is getting on in age, um, what do we do about euthanization or
yeah,
medical treatment for them? Because like one thing I've noticed is, especially older dogs, like if they get cancer, putting them through the cancer treatment is super painful and might only give them another year or two of life, but they don't really understand what's going on.
yeah.
So what am I supposed to do when it comes to these pets that are in extreme suffering, and like it almost feels like euthanization might be the better way out.
Yeah, definitely. So euthanasia, when it's genuine and it's not just a label of euthanasia, like, but like, because a lot of that'll happen in dog shelters and stuff. But okay, so look, yeah, if an animal or a human is suffering extremely and their quality of life has deteriorated to the point where their life is no longer worth living, do them a favor and put them out of their misery. That's a mercy killing. Like, that's what I would want done for me. Like, uh, end the suffering, right? That's ethical at that point. So that's that. You do it as quickly and painlessly as possible. If all that's happening is their legs are going out, we can make little wheelchairs for them. But like my dog, when he was 14, he was vomiting all the time and couldn't control his bowels, and his legs were going out. So yeah, but. And also, like, I am in support of the right to die movement. The right to die movement is for humans, where like you should have the right to physician assisted suicide if you are terminally ill and you're gonna die in a year or two or whatever, and you may be okay right now, like you may be healthy feeling right now, but you're gonna have this slow decline into dementia or like extreme pain and just living in a deathbed and dying slowly, and you have the right, I think, to not suffer a prolonged, painful death and to just be killed quickly and painlessly by a doctor right now with physician-assisted suicide. So that's the right to die. And so I think the same thing could be said for caretakers of animals who get a horrific disease or something like cancer that but we should prolong the euthanasia or the mercy killing until as the last moment possible. So like in the case of an animal, like when they're not suffering extremely, when they do start to suffer extremely, then that's when we should stop. It can be hard to find the gray area, the line of where to draw that, but just do what you think is in their best interest and what you would want someone to do for you if you were in their situation.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like a good rule. Like if I was in their position.
Yeah.
And when it comes to things like insects, there's like a lot of very aggressive wasps where I live. How are we supposed to treat insects? Because like I know in the case of bees, I want to stop eating honey or using honey products because of the problems around that. But
cool.
What about like other insects just like throughout the house or that may present like a danger to yourself?
Yeah, so like be nice to bugs as much as possible and practicable. That's the whole thing of veganism is as far as possible and practicable. Like you have the right to defend yourself if a human or a bear or a bunch of insects are attacking you. You have the right to defend yourself. Try to use non-violence or non-lethal violence to defend yourself, but if you can't, then you have the right to kill to defend yourself. So if I find bugs, a bug in my house, I catch and release. I put them in a cup, take them out to the yard, and that's the end of that. And they're happy, safe, and free. But if there's an infestation of bed bugs, like I had a situation where I was trying to deal with an infestation of bed bugs, and I gathered them all up, and it was like really hard because they're in all these tiny cracks. And I thought I got them all. I got them all out peacefully, right? And then the next day there was just like 100 more of them because they breed really fast and they hide in these nooks and crannies. And I couldn't sleep. Like I was being attacked, being eaten alive, and so I killed them all. Like I wish I didn't have to live in a world like that, but I got to do what I got to do to get a good night's sleep so I don't lose my mind, right? But if I can't avoid it, I do. As far as wasps and stuff, I don't know if there's like bug spray you can put on yourself to deter them from coming near you. When a mosquito or whatever lands on me or a wasp, I just go blow them off of me, right? Instead of squashing them. And hopefully usually they don't come around me. Like I've been around like a hive of wasps and they don't mess with me if I don't mess with them. Even when I mess with them, because I was trying to relocate their hive and they still didn't attack me. They were just staying near their hive trying to defend it. So just do the best you can, but you got the right to defend yourself. But so I accidentally step on bugs just walking across the yard. I know that's going to happen, but it's an accident. But I do it anyways, knowing it's going to happen. And that's sad and unfortunate, but it's the world we live in. Bugs are tiny, they're everywhere. It's unavoidable that we're going to cause some amount of animal suffering and death just by existing, but that's not an excuse for us to pay someone to stab a pig so that we can eat bacon when we don't need it.
Right. And then this has been a very, very last question. So I'll give an example. Like I have a bone knife that I made from antlers that a deer sheds. So I know we're obviously not supposed to use like leather animal products that have been taken from animals that were like slaughtered, or sometimes skinned alive, which is even worse. But what about animals that have, like let's say an animal was to die just naturally out in the wild? Would we be able to like use its bones or resources on the body and like use them for items or other like research purposes?
Yeah, it's definitely less of an ethical problem for sure, and it's not on my list at all. But if it is on my list, it's at the bottom of my list. But the only potential problem with like your knife or something is that it can, even if no animal suffered to make that knife, it can have this accidental effect of, and it won't necessarily do this, but it can potentially have this negative effect of promoting the commodification of animals, where somebody else might see that and think, oh yeah, we can make tools out of animals' body parts, or we can use animals' bodies, to make whatever we want because they exist for us or whatever. Now, if you're a vegan talking about animal rights all the time, then that person's not going to get that by looking at your knife because they're going to realize the context of no animal suffered and that kind of thing. So, not really a big issue. I have leather seats in my car. I hate it. I covered them with like cloth and stuff, but it's only because it was a used car that I bought and I couldn't afford anything better. And if I could afford a new car, it wouldn't be leather seats, that kind of thing. But we do the best we can in a non-vegan world, and yeah, don't freak yourself out too much about all the little products here and there, because they fucking sneak animal products into everything, like pretty much. Like, like there might be some kind of animal products in your toothbrush, like, and you'll just never know.
Right.
You'll never know, or you do know, and like it's just, but so we do the best that we can, try to find animal-free products, but the main thing is talk about this issue. Become an activist, push for legislation, show the slaughterhouse videos, encourage people to, at bare minimum, stop buying meat, dairy, and eggs, and there you go.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like, more for activism purposes, just steer clear of it no matter what.
It's been nice talking to you, and congratulations on your transformation. I urge you to follow me on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, especially YouTube. I've got a lot of videos about animal rights and protests and activism and stuff, and I have a playlist on YouTube called My Top 20 Videos, so check out my top 20 videos on my YouTube. Just type in my name, and there you go.